I survived 500 days in hardcore Minecraft, then immediately died. But to both celebrate and mourn the world, I've compiled all of the videos from this world into one full movie.
My name is Seuss, and today marks the beginning of something I've always wanted, my very own hardcore forever world. In this first episode, my goal is to build the ultimate starter base, packed with everything I'll need to survive for as long as possible in my new forever world. So, let's get started. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I just love the feeling of starting a brand new world. It is just so refreshing. Anyways, as you all know, we need to start punching our first tree, and I think we found our victim here. Now that we have some wood, I can craft up a wooden pickaxe and go look for some stone to mine. Using this cobblestone, I can craft myself a basic set of stone tools. Alright, now that we have the stone tools acquired, I think the next objective is to make sure we have a bed to sleep the night away. Unfortunately for all these sheep, I think they will do just fine. I did spot a village, okay. There's a village way over there. I think I'm just going to go check that out and see if there's any good loot I can take. I will also gladly take the sugarcane and these pumpkins right here. Oh, perfect. They have wheat blocks. Okay. I'm going to craft myself up a stone hoe here just to make stealing their wheat a little easier.
Are you really playing Minecraft if you're not stealing the villagers' crops?
Well, I had a look around and didn't really find anything super useful, but I did find this cave here, so I'm hoping we can get a few bits of iron and coal. That does scare me a little bit though, but if we're careful, I think we can avoid all of these mobs down there. Now, whenever I'm starting out a world, I always make sure to grab as much coal as I can. It's just super useful having an early game. And yes, it can be tedious to sit here for 10 minutes and mining coal super slowly, but it's definitely worth it. Oh, this is a very tricky cave. Oh no. Whew. Okay, that was a little worrying, I'm not gonna lie. That was kind of close. No shield or no armor, nothing. A skeleton can definitely end your world early, so good thing we were able to take the guy out. After a bit more mining and mob killing, I was able to smelt all of my iron and craft a full set of iron armor. Alright, finally made it to the surface, and if you didn't notice, got a shiny new set of gear here. Finally got enough iron to make a full suit of iron armor, and man, let me tell you, that gives me so much more confidence. I almost feel like I could take on one of these guys here, but I definitely won't be doing that. Anyways, now that I'm done with the caves, I think I'm going to find the spot to set up my starter base. So I'll do a bit of searching around, and I'll see you guys soon. Oh no. I did not see this monument. This might hurt. Oh, please. Okay. Okay, I think we got out of that without a scratch, which is honestly pretty lucky. Oh, there's another one? Oh my god. That actually scared me so much. Wait, what? Actually, what is this? Oh. It's a ship. Okay. I see. It's the mast. Alright. Nothing too good. I will take this map though. That would be kind of fun to do a little berry treasure hunt. Other chests? Ooh. Moss. I will definitely take that moss. That will definitely come in handy. Alright, let's take a look at this map. Oh, perfect. It should be right here. There's a bit of a problem with that. There are some mobs over there. I'm hoping if we can just place the bed down quick enough and go to sleep fast enough, we'll be okay. Oh, can we get it off? Oh, nice. Just in time to... If I remember correctly, there's kind of a way to do this, and if you're looking north, you just want your little icon piece to just be peeking out over the X, and then you should be able to just dig down from there. Are you serious? Oh my, okay. I forgot about the mining fatigue. Alright, I'm gonna just wait out that for a few minutes. Finally, we can break blocks again. Or is it? Oh, maybe that's what it was. I think it might be if the bottom of it is sticking out. Yep, there you go. Okay, there we go. Let's see what we get. Ooh. Okay, that's pretty good. Well, I guess our first diamond in this world will be from a treasure chest, which I mean, I won't complain. Definitely makes it makes my life easy. All right, there we go. The first diamonds. We'll also grab these emeralds. Honestly, everything else I might just leave. But yeah, 2 diamonds. That's not bad. Anyways, we do have to continue looking for a place to build, so I'm gonna carry on with that, and I'll see you back again soon. Oh wow, those mountains look so cool. Okay, you know what? I think I found a good spot here. Not super close to those mountains I saw, which are pretty much just right over there. But this is kind of a good flat area. The area over there wasn't the flattest. It was a lot of water and kind of small hills. So I think we can work with this area here, and we also have a village super close, which is really, really convenient. The only thing is I'm not the biggest fan of the cherry blossom biome, but I do really like that mountain there, and I think we can definitely work with something. So I think I'm just gonna clear a little area, maybe right around here, and we can get started with the starter base. All right, well that didn't take too much time at all. I have now completed my entire starter base, and here it is. Beautiful craftsmanship. I think it's some of my best work, honestly. No, just kidding. I actually just needed a temporary place to just store my items because I need some more supplies before I start building. So I'm gonna have to go out and do a bit more exploring just so I can find a few more resources. Alright, so while I had it, let's go over the 3 materials that I'm looking for. The first one is deep slate, which we all know is pretty easy to get, so that one won't be a problem. The second one is mud, which hopefully isn't too bad. If I don't find a mangrove swamp, I can always just use glass bottles and convert dirt into mud, so that shouldn't be too bad either. The last one though will pose the biggest issue, which is calcite. So if you don't know, calcite can be found in 2 major ways. The first being geodes, which spawn underground, and the second way is finding those big mountains that spawn with the calcite veins. Now personally, I prefer the mountains. I just find it a lot easier to just mine on the mountain instead of finding geodes, but if we need, we will go looking. I did see this method of looking in the ocean to find geodes. Apparently they can stick up through the ground and into the ocean, so we might have to do that later, but we'll see. Ooh, I think I just saw some bamboo up there. I also saw this pale oak biome on the way to the bamboo, so we'll grab some saplings from here as well. Man, I must say, I have not been into one of these biomes with shaders on, and it just is so atmospheric. Like with the little fog there, this would definitely be really scary at night. Oh, perfect! We found a mangrove swamp. Alright, that means we can just farm a bunch of mud here, and we don't have to make it with water bottles. That's awesome. I did come prepared. I've made 2 iron shovels for this trip, so I'm going to be collecting a lot of this stuff. Okay, 1 full iron shovel later, and I think that's probably enough mud for now. One thing that's super nice about this biome is, we all know generally it is a kind of a pain in the to chop these trees, but to get saplings, you don't have to chop anything. You can just grab these propagules and you're good to go. Oh, here's one of the new firefly bushes. Oh, that looks so cool. Oh, and the new bush. I'll definitely be grabbing those while I'm in the area. Hopefully there are more around. Oh, is that? Oh, there we go. Oh, I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. Perfect. Okay, we found a geode. Now I have to figure out how I'm gonna get down there without dying. Oh, okay. I've got an idea. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna place my crafting table and quickly make a door so that I can breathe down here. As long as I'm quick, this should be no problem. And perfect. Okay, so now we can crack this geode open and get some calcite. Perfect. Man, I've been searching for so many blocks to find this stuff. Finally, we have some calcite to work with. Alright, so I just spent some time to dig up the entire geode basically, and I think we have enough calcite for now. So now it's time to go home and get the last material that we need, which is just cobbled deep slate. Alright, I have finally gathered up enough resources to finally start building. I think I'm ready to move out of my dirt shack over there, so let's get to work. Now, I'm not entirely sure how big I want to make it yet. I do have a style in mind,
but I'm not sure on the dimensions of the build, so I think I'll just kind of start building and see where it goes. For this build, I started with a solid stone foundation using a mix of stone bricks, cobblestone, andesite, and the occasional cracked stone brick. I then went on to make some stripped spruce support beams, and in between each beam I used a mix of calcite and diorite for the walls. For the roof, it was a simple curved design using a mix of deep slate bricks and tiles. I will point out that during the first time I built the roof, I had actually got the dimensions wrong and I had to rebuild one of the walls. I wanted to point this out to show that it's okay to make mistakes, and since I'm not the best builder, I will be making a lot of them. Anyways, after adding in some windows with light gray stained glass and a few other details, the build was done. Well, that took me a lot longer than I was expecting, but I think I am done with the exterior here. Kind of a simple design, kind of a medieval look. I'm sure you've all seen this before. However, the interior is not looking too good. So I think I'll just do a quick spin around here and perfect. We are all done there. Just kidding. That actually took a lot longer than I was expecting. But at least we have a fully furnished starter base now. So once you come in the door, there's kind of this little entry area just to kind of greet you into the house. To the left here is the main storage area with all of my chests and storage, which looks very organized, but I have yet to actually organize my items. So that I'll probably do off screen. Next over here we have the main kitchen area, which is where I'll do all my smelting for my food, my ores, and then any regular items I need to smelt. And honestly, I think this room turned out very nice. I'm not the biggest interior designer. I'm not really good with small areas, so I think this turned out a lot better than I was actually expecting. So then we'll go upstairs here, and there's kind of another main entry area here, and then to the left will be the bedroom. This space was quite big, so I struggled a little bit with making it look kind of detailed and nice. But I threw in a few plants just to kind of increase the greenery here and make it not look too, sprucey. And lastly, there's this room over here, which actually is totally empty because I don't have any idea what to do with this room. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments, and I'll probably pick the best idea. Now that the house is fully done, I think it's time we can finally remove this dirt shack, which I've been waiting to do for so long. Alright, last block, and finally that terrible eyesore is out of my world forever, so we'll never have to look at that thing again. But we have a bit of an issue. This is all the crops I have to my name, and if I want to start breeding some animals, I'm going to need a few more. So what I'm going to do is start a few crop fields just out in front of the house, and then we can start growing some crops properly. But first I'm going to need myself a stone hoe. Also going to grab some water from the river here, and if you're wondering why I'm only using one bucket, I literally don't have enough iron to make 2 buckets, so I'm going to have to make a couple trips. Alright, so I'm just going to clear out some of these seeds and start a rough shape on the farms. And just to cover up the water blocks, I'm going to put in some spruce slabs. Hopefully these will blend in nicely with the dirt. Then finally I'm going to start planting in some of my seeds, just so we can start getting some crops growing. I'm thinking that this entire side here will probably just be wheat, and then we'll probably do some potatoes and carrots over on this side. I'm also just going to add a couple little stone walls with some lanterns on top to make sure the crops have enough light during the night to grow. Well, now that I've got a rough outline of where all my crops are going to be, I think I'm going to make a sort of animal pen here, just for my cows, sheeps, and any other animals I want to house here. The design's not going to be anything crazy. I think I'm just going to go in with some stone brick walls and maybe some other walls here as well, and a bit of spruce wood, and just kind of make a few little pens. And I'm definitely excited to, at some point in this world, have a tree farm, because cutting these spruce trees is getting a little ridiculous. Or if not a tree farm, at least just better tools. Alright, so I just came up with this little design here. I know these pens are quite small, but I don't think these animals need a whole lot of space, and I'm not really planning on putting a lot in here. Just enough to kind of get me started. but we'll probably have some dedicated spaces later on for these animals. And one thing I did realize while building this was how expensive trapdoors are, and the inflation on those things is getting crazy. And now, unfortunately, I do have to go to the mines and grab a bit more iron because I am totally out of iron, which really sucks, especially when I want to be using these lanterns as much as possible. It's taking me only like 2 minutes and I've already found 24 pieces of iron. Which is unfortunate because if I had fortune, that would be so much more. But we'll take what we can get. Anyways, I do hear zombies nearby, so I think there's a cave. And this dripstone might confirm that. Okay, this really isn't much of a cave. But we'll take the easy access to this iron here, so it's not too bad. Just like that, we already have 37 pieces of iron, which should be plenty enough for the rest of this episode. And I'm really shocked that I got that fast. That literally only took me like 3 minutes total. Alright, now we can finally add some lanterns in here, and I'll be confident that the animals we bring in here will be totally happy and definitely not isolated from the rest of the world. Actually, that was a bit too many lanterns. So now that I'm sure my animals will be totally happy, I think it's time we go find some. And I've seen a lot of animals nearby, so shoot. I've seen a lot of animals nearby, so I don't think it should be too hard to find some. Like right here, we already have sheep super close, and I know there are some cows in the area as well. So hopefully this goes pretty smoothly. Alright, well, as long as these guys don't trample my crops, I think we'll get along just fine. Alright, and I'll stick you guys in here. And now they have their own forever world right in this pen. Oh, perfect. There are the cows. Sweet. It makes my life so easy having these cows super close to the base. I mean, we're literally only like 40 blocks away. This is awesome. Now, we do have a bit of an imposter in here, so I think the sheep will have to go if we can get to them. And there we go. Okay, so now we just have to find some pigs and chickens, and perfect. This almost looks scripted how easy these animals are to find, but I'm telling you, there's just so many animals nearby that this is great. I will say though, the only animal I haven't actually seen has been chickens, so we might have to go on a bit of an adventure to find some, but I'm hoping it won't be too bad. Oh, dang it. 3 out of the 4 animals are done. Now it's time to find us some chickens. Oh, there we go. I see 1 chicken. I'm hoping there's at least a second one to go with it. Oh, perfect. Alright. Oh, we got tons of chickens here. Alright, little guys, come with me and we'll find you a new home. I'm calling it home. To them, it's probably more like a prison. Wow, these guys swim so slowly. This might take a while. Okay, guys, come on. I'm not sure if you guys can hear their footsteps, but if you can, I'm wondering if you guys also think it sounds like the crackle of a fire. Because to me, it sounds like there's a constant fire lit behind me, and it's kind of scaring me a little bit. Perfect. And we got all of our animals in their pens before nighttime, so I don't have to deal with any of those pesky mobs. Anyways, I think I'm going to take some time to harvest these crops and also breed the animals. So I'll see you once that's done. You know what, while we wait, I think there's something I can do, which will require a bit of dirt and some stone. Now, I don't think this is enough materials to finish what I have in mind, but it will definitely give me a good start. Well, it definitely isn't enough resources because I have 0 stone to use for stone bricks, so a quick trip to the mine should fix that. Of course, I forgot to bring myself an extra pickaxe. Ooh, nighttime is not a good time to exit the mines. Ooh. Wandering trader, okay. He is invisible, but let's see what he has. Honestly, nothing I really... Oh! Well, I guess they are good for one thing. Oh my god, did I look at that Enderman? Oh no! Oh, this is getting very scary. Okay, give me a second and I'll hopefully I'll figure out this mob situation, because I am getting just overrun here. Let's get out of here and get to the safety of my house, because this is just not a fun experience out here. Alright, now that I've gathered a bit more resources, we can finally get back to what I wanted to do, which is create a tiny little perimeter wall all around our little starter base here. But first I'll need to place in a bit of dirt over here just because our farmland extends a bit too far. Alright, that should be good there. And now I can start placing some blocks and kind of mapping out where this wall will go. I don't want it to be too tall. I want it to be like, you know, maybe 1.5, 2 blocks tall.
just tall enough to keep out all the mobs, but not too tall where it's just covering up the build and the farms and all that. So I'm thinking just something sort of like this, just sort of a messy rocky look that looks nice but also keeps the mobs out. Anyways, I'll continue this on the rest of the wall and then I'll see you after that's done. Okay, now that I've finished all the wall, I think I'm just going to make a front gate sort of entrance here. Now I don't have an actual design in mind, I'm kind of just going to go ahead and see what I can come up with. But I know I do want to add a bit of wood just to kind of break up that gray color from the stone wall. Okay, I think something like that should do the trick. Now to actually make this gate functional, I'm going to throw in a few walls here and then a fence gate to keep the mobs out. And yes, don't worry, I do know that technically you can get over this gate by just walking on the edge there and getting in, but I'm honestly not too worried. I don't know if the mobs are that smart enough, so I think that should be fine. And one final thing is obviously this pathway here. I'm not going to keep it just grass. It kind of looks honestly terrible. So I'm going to come in here with some packed mud and packed mud bricks and try and make a nice design. I'm also going to use some of the path block to mix in with that, and hopefully it looks good. But yeah, if you remember at the start of the video, this is why I wanted to gather so much mud, because I wanted to use the packed mud as a building block, which I've never really used before. And honestly, I think it was a great addition to the game. I just haven't gone around to actually using it in any of my builds. After finishing the pathway, I wanted to add some final details to the build. So first, I removed the supportive beam of signs and moved it up since I thought that looked better. I then also added some shutters to the window and added these fence gates to make the build look a bit more supported. Lastly, I built this little gazebo type structure right in the front of the build to store all the crops I collect. This gazebo was really simple to make but adds so much life and character to the house. And just like that, we are officially done our starter base. Well, I just finished with the final details and I think this place turned out amazing. For someone who really isn't much of a builder, with very little experience building super detailed builds, I think this turned out great. Even the interior I am super proud of and I hope you all agree. Welcome back to my hardcore forever world, where last episode I built this amazing starter base, complete with storage, farms, and even animals. But we have a problem. If you haven't noticed, I'm still using iron gear. So in this episode, I want to fix that. Today, I'll be making a dedicated enchanting building with all the storage I'll need for enchanted books and items. It will also have easy access to the two major components of enchanting, leather and XP. So enough talking, let's get started. Actually, before we get started, there are a couple things I would like to address. The first being the spare room up here. So last episode, if you don't remember, I asked you guys your opinions on what I should do with this room. And to be honest, most of you said enchanting room, which I totally understand. However, I did want to make a separate building for enchanting just to kind of have a dedicated space. So instead, I'm going to go with the suggestion by this person saying I should make it a treasure room, which was something I was kind of originally thinking to begin with. So I'm glad someone said it. So I'm just going to come in here with a bit of this polished tuff here and put on a, I guess, piece of treasure we have. From the first episode, I did actually keep the wooden pickaxe we made. This was the very first pickaxe of the world. So I'm going to put that on here and just put in the first pickaxe of the world. So there we go. Now we have a nice artifact for this little treasure room. And just a side note, I did install another mod that allows you to have invisible item frames. So now it just looks like it's nicely resting on there. But in the future, we'll add more to this room, you know, like the first set of iron armor, probably the dragon egg, just things like that are kind of like monumental moments in the world. Anyways, now that that's out of the way, I think it's time we go mining. I only have 2 diamonds to my name and very little coal and other resources. And if I want to make a dedicated enchanting room and upgrade my gear, I'm going to need a few more diamonds. So I'm going to go down to the mine and see how many diamonds I can find.
Since the last episode, I have done some off-camera mining. You know, the classic joke. I know I did not collect 9 stacks of diamond blocks since last episode. I just made this staircase that goes all the way down to diamond level. So from here, I'm probably just going to do some strip mining until I find a cave, because if you didn't know, strip mining diamonds isn't really the most efficient way to find them anymore. All the diamonds that you'll find strip mining that are kind of enclosed behind blocks usually are like a 1 ore vein, and the ones that you'll find in caves that are exposed to air actually have more ores. So they definitely made cave exploring a bit more efficient than just strip mining. So hopefully we find a cave pretty soon. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, it's not a cave, but I will take some diamonds. Oh, and it's more than one. An 8 vein. This is perfect. Wow. Okay. I know I just said strip mining is not that efficient. I was not expecting to find an 8 vein of diamonds just by strip mining. That's pretty crazy. Oh, I guess it was more than 8. No way. This is actually crazy. What is going on? 12 diamonds. Just like that. Okay, well, I was going to say I'm going to keep going and see if I can find a cave or anything, but I think 12 diamonds is enough to get us started here. I really just need to make the enchanting table and a pickaxe to hopefully get fortune, which will then obviously make getting diamonds a little easier. So we'll just head back up and get that sorted. To start off, I think I'm going to make a temporary enchanting setup. However, we're kind of low on a few things. We only have 5 leather. We need 45 in total just to get 30 level enchants. So we're going to need a lot more leather, and we'll also need quite a bit more sugarcane. So I'm going to go ahead and plant some sugarcane, breed up the cows. And once that's done, I'll probably just go around the area and try to find some other animals, some cows or horses nearby that I can kill to get some more leather. Which, lucky for us, I remember seeing a lot of cows and horses nearby, so hopefully we can get enough leather pretty quick here. I guess there's also the added bonus of getting a bunch of beef, because food is also kind of an issue for us at the moment. Whoa. Oh my. Ooh, some diamonds down there. Oh no. Oh, oh no. I didn't mean to throw my axe. Anyways, I was about to say, I just found this massive cave pretty close to the base. I don't think you can see it. It should be right around that corner there, but this cave is massive. I think this is literally the biggest cave I've ever seen since the update came out. This thing is huge. Super dangerous to explore, so we'll see if I end up going down here later, but that is just a massive cave. That is insane. Anyways, back to the animal killing. Alright, so I just got back from our little expedition there, and we ended up with 35 leather and 49 beef, which I will take. Definitely we'll take that. 35 leather is pretty much almost there, so I think a bit more breeding of these cows, we should be good. Now, I do expect us to be using more leather in the future, so I'm just going to quickly make a little sort of leather farm, cow farm, I'm not sure what you want to call it, which will just make getting leather, you know, now or even later on just a little bit easier. So I'm hoping we have all the materials for that. I did realize though that I will actually probably need better tools to make that, because I'm sick of chopping trees down with a iron axe. So I'm just gonna go kill a few of these cows. We got enough leather, and that actually wasn't that many cows to kill. So thankfully we didn't have to kill our entire pen full of cows to get enough leather there. So now it's just a matter of getting enough paper to make the bookshelves, which honestly is going to be a very boring process. Won't make you guys watch that, but I'll probably just, you know, stick around the sugarcane. I might go searching for a bit more sugarcane as well, just seeing if there's some in the area that we can grab. After that, we'll finally get to enchanting. Alright, well, I've got all the paper I need now to make the books. I actually ended up just finding all this sugarcane in the nearby area, and it only took me like 10, maybe 15 minutes of searching, which was a lot faster than I was expecting. Usually when I go look for sugarcane, I find like 3 pieces in an hour. You know, it's just something that's always hard to find when you need it. But this time we got pretty lucky. I am now realizing though that I have no wood. I was really hoping I could get the enchanting setup done, but I don't have enough wood to make the bookshelves. But thankfully we already have this big spruce tree here, so we have a lot of wood ready to go already. Alright, so now we can go craft up our bookshelves. And I think for now we'll use the spare room here as a temporary enchanting setup. If we just put them in this sort of shape here. That should give us level 30 enchants. Obviously, we are missing the actual enchanting table, so let's get that now. If we just take our diamonds here, we can make the first official diamond pickaxe of the world. A very monumental moment. And man, that is a nice upgrade from iron, let me tell you. Now we have to go find ourselves some obsidian. And lucky for us, I think there should be a lava pool right over there. So if we take this water bucket, we can just go and get some easy obsidian there. Problem is now I just have to find the thing, which I know it's somewhere over here. I don't know exactly where. So hopefully I don't spend an hour trying to find this thing. Oh, is that it there? There we go. Okay. I found the lava pool. Okay, so if we just place our water in here, we can go and gather up some obsidian. Wow, this is so slow. Okay, there we go. 4 pieces. I'm not going to grab enough for a nether portal now just because I don't want to sit there for another 5 minutes mining obsidian when it is so slow. But I'll definitely come back when I have some enchantments on my pickaxe, so it'll just make it a little faster. Alright, so now we can take the obsidian and combine it with a book and 2 diamonds, and we get the enchantment table. Or I guess technically enchanting table according to the game. Now we can place this down, and perfect. We should get level 30 enchants. As always, we'll see what we get on the pickaxe, and hopefully it's fortune 3. Unbreaking 3. I mean, not bad. Could be better. But either way, honestly doesn't really matter because I am not level 30 yet. I have to get some XP. And so I'm sure you're wondering how I'm going to do that. Well, we found a zombie spawner last episode, which I'm going to convert into a very basic XP farm. Since I don't have a nether portal, I'm not going to do the dropping chamber with, you know, the soul sand and all that. But I just want an easy XP farm to use just to get some XP for the meantime. I honestly don't think I'll need a whole lot of materials for this. Just some water and some blocks really. That's kind of everything. So go get to work. Now I don't remember entirely where it was. I know it was connected to a cave that was connected to the staircase, but I did write the coordinates down, so worst case scenario we can just come here and we can just mine directly to it. All right, and it's only that way about 40 blocks, so let's get mining. Should be right here. Perfect. Okay, that wasn't the most direct route to it, but we'll take it. And I think I already checked these last episode and I didn't take that leather. Wow, what was I thinking? Anyways, with most spawner XP farms, you have to dig a few blocks around it, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And for those that don't know, to make a zombie or skeleton XP farm, you need 4 blocks of space on each side. So this wall will have to go back 1, but just to show you, these 4 blocks will be empty, and then you have to dig 3 blocks below it just to create enough space for them to spawn. Alright, now that the blocks have been dug out, this is the part where you can honestly do it multiple different ways. Some people will just put water in each 4 corners and put a drop shoe in the middle. I tend to do it where I just fill the back wall all with water. And I dig out another trench here just for the zombies to fall into. And then one final trench down here. And I don't really know how long to make this tunnel, to be honest, but I think as long as you're within 16 blocks of the spawner, it should work fine. So I think we'll just put it here, and then we'll dig out a bit of a room here just so we have some space to work with. Just before closing up the spawner, we have to do one more thing. Actually, 2 more things. First is put a sign there, and then 1 more sign here. So that should stop all of the water that flows in. And this last step is very important. Make sure to put a slab here. If you don't, any baby zombies that spawn will get out, and well, we know how dangerous those things are, so you definitely got to be careful. Oh, they're getting stuck up there. Okay, it needs to be a little. Okay, well, good thing I'm not making a XP farm tutorial. And yes, I know this setup is quite ugly. I don't even have a hopper down there, you know, to collect the drops. But I just need XP and I need it quick. So I think this should do for now. Anyways, I'll take a few minutes just farming up these zombies. And hopefully we can get to level 30 pretty quickly. Once I get enchanting, I'd definitely be okay with a smite sword. Obviously, I'd prefer sharpness, but smite would make this grinder a lot better because, as you can see, it's a little slow, but it's definitely getting the job done. Okay, so we're back at the enchanting table, and now it's finally time to enchant our pickaxe. I've got our trusty little grindstone here just in case I don't get a good enchant, which I guess we already know it's not a good one. I do want to re-roll this though, just because I want Fortune 3 for sure. I don't want to take any chances with the little XP that I do have. So hopefully this time we'll get it. Perfect. Second attempt is actually crazy. I am so shocked by that. Hopefully we got, you know, efficiency Unbreaking 3 as well. That would be perfect. No Unbreaking 3, but efficiency 4 is pretty good on that. I'm definitely happy with that. I won't complain. That's definitely a pretty good pickaxe to get for our second attempt. Now that we have our enchanted diamond pickaxe, I think it's time we go back to the mines. I did see a cave pretty close to the zombie spawner that hopefully has a good amount of loot and resources in there, because if we want to upgrade our gear, we definitely need more diamonds than we currently have. And any extra coal or iron we find definitely won't hurt, because I am also running low on those as well. But I think there's perfect. Yep, I think there should be a good cave down here. Oh, we're pretty high up. That's a little scary, but I do see some diamonds down there, which is perfect. But I'll just grab this iron and then I'll probably head down there after. Oh, and that's nice. From 5 iron ore, we got 11 raw iron, which definitely makes my life easy when I'm trying to craft a bunch of lanterns. This Fortune 3 pickaxe was definitely a good investment. Oh, that's scary. Okay, that definitely, if I fell down there, I think that could end the world for sure. What I think I'm going to do is just dig around it, and hopefully we can get to the other side and get down there and start mining some of those ores. Oh, this definitely is sketchy though. All right, we finally made it down here. I think before I mine any of these ores, I'm just going to go around and torch up some of this cave. Wow. Okay, that is just amazing. I'm going to go around and just put a few torches down just to make sure nothing spawns while we're mining some of these ores. Oh. Oh, that's doing a lot of damage actually. Oh. Oh no. Okay. Just hiding here. Man, that skeleton was just pinging me from so far. Not going as smoothly as I would have hoped, but we'll keep going and making progress here. And man, what are with the baby zombies? Okay, I want to take out these creepers right away. I don't want them coming for me when my back is turned. Oop. Okay. Woo! That was probably one of the sketchiest moments I've had in this world. Cleared out most of this cave, so let's get mining some of these ores here. Wow, look at that. 3 diamonds from that one ore. That's nice. Oh, 4 from that one? Wow, that's just crazy. Alright, so I've cleared out a lot of that cave. Obviously, there's a lot of ores left still, you know, on the roofs and kind of hard to reach places, which I'll just leave for now. But we have 28 diamonds, plus the, 10 or 11 I think we have back at the base. That should be plenty to get us started with our full set of diamond gear. I was hoping to see a bit more coal down there. I'm not actually sure if coal spawns that far down. I don't think it does, because coal is the one thing we are pretty low on, to be honest. So actually, before we go back to make the diamond gear, I'm just going to do a bit of strip mining at this iron and coal level, just to see if we can find any coal here. Alright, so I'm finally back from the mines, and we got a pretty good haul here. Definitely a good amount of iron and coal, not to mention the 28 diamonds that we did collect. However, we have a bit of a problem, something we can't really fix right now, but our pickaxe did take a bit of a beating. Not having Unbreaking 3 on that is really going to pose a bit of a problem. Anyways, we can now officially go make our diamond gear, and once we put that on, we should have a lot more protection now, and look at that, that is nice. I'm also going to come up to the artifact room and add the iron armor set as a little artifact for our world. So this armor is now officially retired and will be immortalized in the artifact room. And there we go, we have the second artifact added to this room. I'm also going to make a diamond axe, just to check and see if we have any good enchantments on it. So let's see. Ooh, efficiency 4, that's not bad. Honestly, I'll probably take that unless there's something really good on this diamond armor. Fire protection, not good enough. Protection 3 could be better. Fire protection and Unbreaking 3. Okay, I think I'll go and enchant this diamond axe. Hopefully we get Unbreaking 3 on it as well. Oh, okay. Fortune 3 on an axe is I guess it's okay. I was hoping for Unbreaking, but I guess we'll have to take that for now. Actually, I think with our last diamond, I'm going to make a diamond shovel and see if we can get any good enchantments on that. Well, nothing really too good on that shovel, so we'll keep it unenchanted for now. But like I said, we needed more diamond gear just to be able to get enough resources to make the build. And there's 3 main resources we're looking for right now. The The first is calcite, and if you remember from last episode, we can find that in a geode or the mountain. The second is dark oak, which I thought I had some dark oak saplings, but it turns out I didn't collect any. So we'll have to go exploring and find some dark oak as well. And lastly, I'll need some tuff, which should be the easiest one of all three since we can just find that at deep slate level underground. So let's get to exploring. Oh, please. Oh my god, it does. It has calcite. Holy excuse my language, but that was the most unfortunate adventure ever. I've gone thousands of blocks. I saw multiple stony peaks biomes, which is the biomes that spawned the calcite, and none of them had calcite. I thought it was a sure thing that they'd have a calcite vein, but apparently not all the stony peaks have calcite. So I've been looking for literally hours just to find this, and oh my gosh, I'm so relieved that we finally found one. Wow, and this instamine is so satisfying. Anyways, I'm gonna get to mining this stuff. I'll stop either when my inventory's full or my pickaxe breaks, whichever one happens first. So yeah, once that's done, I'll head back to the base and we'll gather up the rest of the materials. Alright, so I've gathered all the resources I think I'll need for this build, but there's one thing I want to do just before we get started, and that is enchant my diamond shovel. Since we'll have to do a bit of terraforming outside, I want to enchant and hopefully we can get efficiency 4. It does say I'm breaking 3, but I'm hoping it'll also give us some other enchants. Oh, perfect. Efficiency 4, that's exactly what I wanted. Now that we have our nice enchanted shovel here, I can start doing a bit of terraforming where I think the builds are going to go, starting with this little hill here. Just like the calcite, that instamine is so satisfying. I'm also just going to go in and fill in a few little holes with dirt, just to make the overall ground here a little flatter and easier to work with. For this build, I used the same stripped spruce log pillars, but this time I wanted to use a mix of tough and tough bricks. For the roof, I went for a simple design with a dark oak outline and filled in the rest of the roof with spruce. At the front, I wanted to incorporate some brick and granite, so I made a sort of patio using those two blocks. After that, it was just a matter of adding some extra details like these arches, these lanterns, and some leaves to liven up the exterior a little bit. And as for the interior, I just went with a stone floor to give it a sort of grungy look, and that was the build done. Alright, so we've got the full build done here. And I even did the interior a little bit, just added a bit of storage, and then of course the 2 cow farms here. So if you're not sure how these work, they essentially just use anti-decramming, which just means that if there are more than 24 cows in this 1 block space, they will crush each other and die. To use this farm, all you gotta do is flick this button and it'll dispense the water, and then you just come up here and breed the cows. I only have 2 cows in each of them right now, so obviously it's not gonna work, but eventually once there's enough cows, the grown-ups will just be crushed and then all their loot will just fall into this barrel right here. But now that these 2 buildings are done, we can get started on the actual enchanting building, which is the main project for this episode. For the enchanting building, I used a similar palette as the cow farms, starting with the tough foundation and the spruce pillars, but I also added the calcite and diorite walls from the starter house. But since this was an enchanting building, I wanted it to have a more whimsical feel, so I added this large stone tower to the side. It was then onto the roof, where I once again made a mistake on the dimensions of the building. So after taking my frustrations out on this wandering trader, I tore down the wall and rebuilt it. I then went to finish the roof and added this cone-shaped roof to the tower, which took me forever to make manually. Lastly, I added these windows and this wooden support ring around the tower, which I think looks great and helps to break up the stone. Once that was done, the exterior of the enchanting building was complete. Now that the exterior is done, we can start working on the interior because I have yet to do that. Before we get started, I just need to collect a few more blocks. Those blocks were mainly just oak wood from the nearby forest and some cobwebs from this mine shaft that I found while digging for tuff. Getting started on the interior, I put in a nice textured oak floor and added the spruce staircase that led to this super cozy loft area. After that was done, it was time to add in the bookshelves and all the other small details to make this place look like a proper library. Of course, we can't forget about the tower's interior. So on the first floor, I just added some leaves and cobwebs to make it look a bit more interesting. The second floor was a simple storage area, and the top floor was where I put the enchanting table. Wow, I have to say I really liked how this enchanting building turned out. I love this little library building here, and with the super tall ceiling, it really adds to the cozy feel in here. And it almost feels like there's some secrets hidden here with all these little stashed artifacts up there. I really like how it turned out. And also in the tower, it looks super cool in here. It's amazing what just some leaves and cobwebs really does to enhance the feeling of the build. And especially this floor, I really like this little secret floor here. It has no use, but it looks super cool and it kind of adds some lore to the build. And of course we have the enchanting table up top. I think it turned out super nice. I really love this stone roof here. I think it just adds a nice feeling to this room. And of course you have this amazing view of the outside world. Anyways, now that that's done, it's time to finish up a few remaining things for this episode. So now that we've finally finished our enchanting builds and all the builds for the episode, there's one last thing I need to do, and that's create a pathway here, because right now they look very disconnected from the starter house, and I don't like that. For the pathway, I started with a main strip using the path blocks and textured the edges of that with some packed mud, mud bricks, and coarse dirt. Then, to add a bit more detail to the path and buildings, I went around adding some barrels, some leaves, and bone mealed some of the grass. This helped to make the area seem more lived in and not super static. Overall, this area is really starting to come together. Of course, it might seem out of place now, but if you imagine a whole city surrounding this, it's definitely an exciting feeling. Wow, I'm just loving how this place is coming together. It's looking super cool, and yeah, there's only a few builds in here, but once there's a bunch more builds surrounding this area and we start to build up a nice city, I think it'll look super cool just running through these little streets and seeing all the life that this place has to offer. There's one last thing I want to talk about though, and that's the naming of these buildings. One thing I think I want to do for this world is to name most of the buildings, at least the major ones. So if you have any name suggestions for the enchanting building, please let me know in the comments below. Welcome back to my hardcore forever world, where last episode I built this super cozy enchanting building full of books, storage, and life. But for today's episode, I want to work on some fully automatic farms that will give us tons of resources that we'll need for future projects. So let's get started. So yes, that's right, we did fully finish this building last episode with a super cozy interior that I just love. But first, before we begin on the new project for this episode, I need to do a few things. First, I want to enchant some of my gear. The second thing I need to do, which ties to the first one, is actually go to the Nether and get some quartz. Not only will I need quartz for this episode, it also give me a good source of XP that's a little faster than the zombie spawner we're using. So first things first, we can grab ourselves a water bucket here and head over to the lava pool we found in episode 1. At least, I think it was episode 1. I'm not sure. I'm kind of losing track of what happens in each of these episodes. I know we're only on episode 3, but they kind of blend together at this point. Now you'd think, since I've already been there, I'd have an easier time finding this thing. But I'm definitely struggling a little bit here. Yeah, I didn't think it was this far away, but I guess it was. I think it should be right here. Oh, perfect. There it is. And now that we have our efficiency 4 pickaxe, this should be much faster than the last time we were here. Alright, now that we have the 10 obsidian we need for the portal, we can head back to base and find a nice spot to put it. There is a future build I want to make that would involve the nether portal, but that'll be in quite a few episodes from now. So I think for now we'll just stick it in the basement of our enchanting building. Alright, so I've just cleared out a bit of a space here. And my plan for this is kind of just to have like a creepy kind of basement for this enchanting building, where maybe, you know, the librarian is hiding this portal or something like that. I'm not really sure. I haven't actually designed anything, so I'm kind of just working off the dome here, but we'll see if I can throw something together. I do have a bunch of tuff and cobblestone here, so we'll see what I can do. Alright, so I've just finished up the basement here. I didn't want to go too crazy. I think there already might be too many leaves. But I was kind of going for kind of like an abandoned look down here, you know, like there's a dark secret down at the back there. And so I also really like how it's a little darker down there. You know, how this portal is kind of hidden in the shadows. I do like that feeling a lot. But now it's time we actually light the portal, because obviously there's no point in having a portal if you're not going to light it. Alright, so now that we've got our flint and steel, we can officially light our nether portal. Oh! That looks so cool. Wow, okay, that purple glow is awesome. I didn't think it would have such a large effect with the shaders, but that looks so cool. Oh man, that looks so awesome without the lantern. But unfortunately, I'm not sure if this actually emits light. I can't remember. So it turns out the portal does emit light, so all these blocks are non-spawnable, I believe. They don't look like they should be spawnable, so I think we should be good. And yeah, that just looks so cool. Let me just see what it looks like when you're coming down. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Okay, alright, well, I did bring some blocks with me. I got a new shield, so I think we're actually going to go into the nether and see if we get a good spawn. If we get a good spawn, I think we'll go around and get some quartz, which obviously we do need for this episode. So let's see how our spawn is. I'm really hoping we're just not above a lava pool. Oh. Okay, you know what? That's not too bad at all. Not too bad, I'll take it. It's not super enclosed, so it's a little dangerous maybe, but it seems pretty safe here. All right, I'm very happy with that actually. That's awesome. Let's go. All Alright, so I think I'm comfortable enough here to just gather some quartz. So I'm going to go around and just get as much as I can. And hopefully we get a lot of XP from it. Oh yeah, that XP is pretty good. One vein and we went up, I think, 2 levels from that. That's pretty nice. Oh man. I was trying to get back, but this gas won't leave me alone. Okay. Oh! Let's go! First try! Wow, that was awesome. Oh yeah, that's right. And you get the music disc now too. Cool. Okay. Wow, that went a lot better than I was expecting. I did though find more quartz, so I can't help myself. I have to grab all of this before I leave. Alright, we have returned safely from the nether, for now at least. And look at all of this quartz I got. That is so much quartz. And we're now up to level 36. And when we went in, we were at level 24, which is crazy because that only took me 10 minutes to mine all of that quartz. So definitely a great way to get XP. So now that we have some XP to enchant with, I want to hopefully get 2 enchantments. The first one is I definitely want an Unbreaking 3 pickaxe. Having this thing without Unbreaking 3 is honestly terrible. It wears out so quick. It's honestly just a pain to repair this thing so often. And as you can tell, I'm fully out of diamonds, so I definitely should probably go mine for some more right away. But anyways, the other enchant I want, I think, is Feather Falling 4, or at least some sort of Feather Falling on the diamond boots, which just greatly increases our survivability, especially if we're building, you know. Like if I were to fall off of that roof there, it would have got me pretty low on health. Maybe not killed me, but like 1 or 2 hearts left. So Feather Falling will definitely be a very important enchant as well. So I'm just going to quickly check what we can get on the boots. Obviously, I can't make a second diamond pickaxe right now since we don't have any more diamonds, but we can still check the boots enchantments in the meantime. Let's see what we get. Unbreaking 3. Okay. Could be worse. I'm going to check all the other armor just in case, but Unbreaking 3 as well. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to try for this and hopefully it gives us some other good enchants as well. Depth Strider 3. Well, that wasn't quite what I was hoping for. I think I'm just going to grindstone that because that honestly is not very helpful at all. Okay, everything's Unbreaking 3. I'm just going to re-roll them one more time and hopefully we can get something good. Oh, I didn't even see that. There's a Feather Falling 3 there. And you know what? I think at this point, I'm not going to be too picky. I think I'm going to take this. Fire Protection 2, it's okay. I mean, I will be going to the nether some more, so I guess that definitely helps with that. But for now, I do need a bit more diamonds. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a bit more mining and maybe some cave exploring if we can find one. I think I got all the diamonds from the cave we found last episode, so I'll probably have to look for a new cave. Now, before we get started, I want to apologize for something I said in the last episode. I thought diamond veins that you found while strip mining had less diamonds in them. It turns out those are the ones that actually have more, which I guess explains why we found a 12 diamond ore vein last episode. Anyways, now that I've cleared the air with that, let's get to strip mining. Oh, another spawner. Let me deal with these mobs real quick. This is actually perfect. It's a skeleton spawner. Haven't really brought it up before, but one problem I have a lot in this world is my lack of bones or bone meal, especially when I want to grow spruce trees or just grow some long grass on the dirt, right? And so this spawner might come in handy later. It is a little far from the base, but in the future we might be able to make something with this. We could also make a bone meal farm with just cactus, so we'll see if we do use this. So for now, I'll just jot down the coordinates and keep that in mind for later. So I'm back from the mines, and we only got 16 diamonds from that trip. I was hoping for a little bit more. However, at least we have enough to make ourselves a new diamond pickaxe, and hopefully we can get Unbreaking 3 on this and combine it with our current pickaxe and get a nice Unbreaking 3 Fortune 3 pickaxe. So let's head over to our enchanting building and see what we get. Oh, Fortune 3. I mean, it's good. It's just we don't need that. Unfortunately, we already have a Fortune 3 pickaxe. So I think I'll just re-roll this and hopefully we get an Unbreaking 3. Efficiency 4. It's not Unbreaking 3. There's Unbreaking 2, which isn't too bad, to be honest. you know what? I might take the Unbreaking 2. I kind of want to go for the risk, but Unbreaking 2 is pretty good for now, so I think I'll just take this. And now we can combine them. Ooh, only 9 levels. That's actually pretty cheap. But now we should have Unbreaking 2 on our Fortune Pickaxe, which will help us a lot when we're going mining. And quickly before I forget, last episode I asked you guys to give your name suggestions for the enchanting building. So I looked through all the suggestions and I think I'm going to go with this one, which says to name it the Enchanting Emporium. Now I really like how this one rolls off the tongue, and I like the alliteration, you know, with the 2 E's at the start. So definitely keep that in mind for your future suggestions. Now that that's done, I want to take a bit of a break and do some terraforming. If you haven't noticed, the land behind the buildings is quite rough. I'm definitely not a fan of it. There's a lot of little holes and caves that I definitely want to cover up, and it's just not as smooth as I would like it to be. So I'm going to take my trusty shovel here and get this area ready for today's project. Well, I was just doing some terraforming and I found this super close to the base. We're literally just in a hole right here, and there's a zombie spawner down here. We've got them cleared out, and man, I wish I knew about this sooner. I spent all that time making a zombie spawner, and there was one like 50 blocks from our base. Anyways, I'm just gonna leave this for now. There's a chance to come back in the future and do something with it, but I'm honestly not too sure at this point, so we'll just see what happens. Anyways, let's get back to the terraforming. Now, I've never been the biggest terraformer, but I think it turned out great, especially when you compare it to how this area looked before we got started. So now that all the terraforming is done, we can finally get started on the farms for this episode. But first, of course, I'll need to grab some materials. Most of these materials I had laying around the house, but I did have to go mine a bit of diorite and smelt some cobblestone. But once that was done, we could get started on the build. For this build, I essentially went for a smaller version of my house, starting with the classic stone foundation layer that I love to use. I also added this part that sticks out for the door so that it wasn't just a boring stone rectangle. Next up was the supportive structures, where this time I tried using some fence gates as well to make it look a bit sturdier. I then filled in the upper walls with the calcite and diorite mix and slapped on a deep slate roof. The main roof wasn't too complex, but I added these 2 parts here that jut out that were quite a hassle to get right. Anyways, after filling in the remaining gaps with some support beams and calcite, the basic exterior was done. Alright, well now that we've gathered up all the materials we need for this farm, we can get to work. So I'm sure you're wondering why this space was left empty when I was building the floor. Well, it's because this is actually where the farm's gonna go. And so I want to build this one with you guys just to explain how this farm works. So if you guys want to build one yourself, you can do that pretty easily. First things first, I'm just gonna put a bunch of hoppers going into that main chest, and this can go all the way to the back wall. And next, on top of these hoppers, I'm gonna put a layer of mud, and that mud is where the sugarcane will go. And of course you need a spot to put the water. And the next step is to place a row of pistons. These will be the things that actually break the sugarcane, and then fill in those gaps as well. And then with the observers, you want to place them facing into that block there, just like that, and then you can remove these blocks. And the last step before planting the sugarcane is just to come behind the observers and place a row of blocks, and then put a redstone dust on each of those blocks. So we can just do a quick test here. If we place a third sugarcane there, the pistons will activate and break the sugarcane, and that sugarcane should fall nicely into this chest here. But just to make sure the sugarcane gets enough light, I'm going to place in a few lanterns. And then I'm going to close off the front of the farm here as well with some glass. Then I'm just going to replace these side blocks here with some stripped spruce, just to make it a bit more appealing. Alright, so that's the first layer done. And yes, I said first layer. I actually designed this building to be tall enough to fit 2 layers of this farm in here. So I'm going to get that done right now. For the OGs that remember, I'm going to do a quick spin and it should be all complete. Perfect, now we're talking. Now we have 2 layers of our fully automatic sugarcane farm. Now that the interior was finished, we can quickly finish up the last few things on the exterior. So I decorated this little window here with some moss and trapdoors, and then also made this other window design that I really like. I'm not sure what it is about it. I think it's a circular shape, but I just love how it looks. And so that was the build fully complete. Okay, well now that I finished the interior, I think we can call this build officially done. And now we can finally move on to the next farm of the episode. But before we start, I just want to put in a few pathways in this area just to get a rough idea of where everything is going to go. Okay, now that I'm done the pathways, I think I can start planning out where I'm going to put the next farm, which will actually be a mud farm. And I'm thinking I'll probably just put it right about here. It's a rather small farm. It'll only be like a 7x7 building anyways, but I think this is kind of the best spot. So I'm going to clear out this grass and get to work on the building. To be honest, this build is a pretty simple one, since the mud farm is just so small that I really didn't need to build anything crazy for it. For the build though, it was just a simple design of the tough mix on the walls with the dark oak and spruce roof. Since it was a mud farm after all, I added some foliage in front to give it a more natural look. Alright, we've got the whole building done, and believe it or not, this does actually fit a mud farm in here. It is quite crazy. It could technically be even smaller, but I wanted a bit of space to walk around the farm. So yeah, it's not a perfect fit, but it definitely works for me. Anyways, I've got all the materials here for the mud farm. I probably won't go through it with you just since it's not actually my design. It's actually the design by Mango, so I'll link that video in the description. And if I tried to explain how the farm works, I'd probably botch it and mess something up. So yeah, I'll get building the farm and I'll see you once that's done. Okay, so now that it's built, we can almost use this farm. The only thing I do need though is a bunch of glass bottles, which I don't currently have. So we'll have to go exploring and just find a beach or a desert so we can mine a bunch of sand. While I was out collecting sand, I spotted a large spruce tree biome, which was perfect since I needed a bunch of mossy cobblestone anyways. Wow, that sure took a while to get all of the glass bottles I need for this farm. I kind of imagined that one glass block would give you more than one bottle, but turns out it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so I needed about 16 stacks of sand. Anyways, now that the bottles are done, I just have to stick them into the farm, and then once we put the dirt in this chest, we should be good to go. So how this farm works is you just have to put the dirt into your offhand and place it here and break it with a shovel. And yes, I'm using an iron shovel because if you have a shovel that's insta-mine, the farm will not work. But all you have to do is look here, you hold right click and you break the block. And after a few seconds, it should start turning the dirt into mud and you now have a mud farm. And if you're wondering why the second farm in this episode is a mud farm, I actually need it to make the pathways. So I thought I should do this now, just so I have enough mud to work with throughout the rest of the episode. So now that that farm's done, we can move on to the third farm this episode, which I think will be a cactus farm. And I think I'm just going to put it right in this area right here. It shouldn't take up too much space, so I think this is a good spot right here. So let's get to building. The cactus farm was another rather simple build, but this time using stone with the dark oak and spruce roof. However, I did try to make this one look a bit more interesting, and I think adding this extra section to the front really gave it a unique look. I did also have to mix things up in the interior. Since the building wouldn't actually fit 2 layers of a cactus farm, I had to dig down to create some extra space, which, once filling in the walls, I think ended up looking really cool. Alright, so we've got the area cleared out here and decorated nicely with all the stone. But before we continue, I just want to quickly demonstrate how this farm works. Just like the sugarcane farm, if you guys want to use this design, it's a very popular design. I definitely did not come up with it. So to make a cactus farm, first you need a block on the ground to hold up the sand, and then your cactus will go on that sand obviously. But what actually will break the cactus will be a fence block that's next to it. And so once the cactus grows, it can't grow next to other blocks, so it'll break and fall into a collection system. And that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple farm. But what I'm going to do is put a little water collection system down here and put in about 2 layers of this cactus farm. And that should be pretty good for now. Alright, I think we are done with the cactus farm. I actually don't have enough cactus at the moment to fully fill out this farm, but you can sort of see how this works now. So when one of these cactuses grow, it'll hit that fence and then fall into the water there. And then all of the drops will funnel into here and into this chest. Whoops, there's a few leftover blocks in there, but you get the point. Anyways, now that we have these 3 farms complete, I think they're looking a little bland here. They kind of don't really fit well with these other buildings, so I want to take some time, take a bit of a break from building and just kind of decorate this area and make it look a bit more cohesive. And so what I'm thinking is just come in with some packed mud bricks and some coarse dirt and kind of just variate this path here. I do want the central path to still be this regular path block, but as we go out, I want it to kind of fade into these other blocks and then of course into the grass block as well. So let's get started on that. Once the paths were done, it was time to fill in some of the extra space with some crop fields, the first of which being a wheat field. To border this field, I designed this natural looking border which I think looks incredible, and honestly might be my favorite thing I've made so far. After that, I added a potato field next to the mud farm, and added the border for the path as well. Then it was on to the next farm of the episode, a bamboo farm, which will sit nicely on top of this hill here. And to be totally honest, I struggled a lot with this farm, more specifically just the building itself. It ended up not being a super complex build, but it took me forever to come up with a design that I was happy with. That being said, I wanted to make sure this farm looked interesting, since it sat on top of the hill. So I went for a roof design that I thought looked quite unique. But before I could build the actual farm, I had to take a quick trip to the mines, since the first 3 farms completely drained my iron reserves. Thankfully though, it didn't take too long to mine the iron, and I was able to build the bamboo farm. I won't be explaining how this farm works, since it's literally identical to the sugarcane farm, except of course without the water, since bamboo doesn't need water to grow. Alright, so now that we're done the bamboo farm, we can finally get to work on the last farm. Well, technically the last 2 farms, which will be the melon and pumpkin farms. But I'm going to combine them into one building anyways. But first, there's one more material I have to gather, and that is in the nether. So unfortunately for us, we're going to have to go back to the nether and hopefully not die and gather just one more item. Actually, I forgot my shield, so let me go grab that first. Perfect, much better. Anyways, as I was saying, there's one more material we need to get from the nether, and that's just a bit of glowstone. Oh, the nether. I did not miss this place one bit. Alright, so let's just take a stroll around and see if there's any easily accessible glowstone. I'm not seeing any that's super easy to get, but I did bring some extra blocks just in case we had to pillar up and gather it that way. So I think we're going to head over here and try to get that glowstone up there. Alright, here we go. Perfect, that should be good there. And now we can get back home and get out of this terrible place. So I definitely don't like it here, especially being so high up trying to mine some glowstone. Alright, so now that I've gathered up all the materials, I think we're just going to put this farm right here. And for this farm, I think I'm going to do it a little differently. For all the other farms, I built the building first and then the farm inside of it. But this one, I'm going to build the farm first, just because it's almost impossible to place all the pistons and observers in later once the building's done. So I'm just going to start with the farm. Now, I'm thinking it'll kind of connect off of this pathway here. So first things first, I'm going to dig out a space in the ground that I'll need to put the minecart. Just something like that. I didn't want to make it too long to make it look weird, so I shortened it up a little bit. But from here, all you want to do is go in and place your rails and make sure they cover the whole bottom of the hole. And every so often, just make sure you're also putting in powered rails. And now that the rails are in, we can go ahead and place our dirt on top of it. And this is where the melons and pumpkins are going to grow. And I'm just going to use some waterlogged stairs just so the water doesn't flow down or anything. And so now that the dirt is tilled, I'm going to come in and place in some seeds. Unfortunately, I only have 3 melon seeds, so a lot of this will be pumpkin for now. But I will come in later and add more melon seeds just so it evens out a bit. But until then, it will be mostly pumpkin. And so now you can go ahead and place your observers facing into each seed, making sure the red dot is on top. And you want to do this for every single seed of the farm. And so now comes a bit of a tricky part where you need to place pistons facing down. So a little tip is you can just use a trapdoor and crawl under here, and you should be able to place them in pretty easily. And the last step you need to do to complete the farm is just place redstone dust on each of the observers. That should be good. And so now when these are fully grown, every time the seed updates, the observer will detect that and power the piston. So once these are fully grown and a melon or pumpkin fully grows, the observer will detect that and the piston will crush it. And so that's why we have the minecart here, because the hopper minecart will go in and collect all the drops. But speaking of the hopper minecart, we need to now build the unloading station for it. So all you need to do is build up a few blocks and place in your chest, and then put the hopper facing into the chest with a powered rail on top. And so we'll want this to stay powered all the time, but to detect when items are going in to unpower it, we'll put a comparator here facing into a block with a redstone torch on top. And a block on top of that torch, and finally, one piece of redstone dust here. So if we want to do a quick test, we'll put items in the hopper and we'll see it deactivates when we put items in there. And it turns back on when we take the items out. So that's technically the whole farm complete, but it looks really bad, so let's do something about it. And so the design I have in mind is pretty simple. I'm just going to come around and border this with a bit of cobblestone and andesite, and do the same up top. And now that that's done, I'll just come around with some stripped spruce logs. And I should also mention, just to make sure all the pumpkins and melons get enough light, I'm going to put glowstone in each of the corners, and then fill in the rest of the space with glass. Finally, I'm going to come in with some spruce stairs, and a couple trapdoors just to cover up the glowstone a little bit. And for the roof, I just came in with my classic dark oak and spruce design. And that was the main building complete. However, we still have the unloading station to decorate. Okay, so I think that is the melon and pumpkin farm fully done. And as you can see, it's working perfectly in there. And here's the little shed extension that we added to house the unloading station. And it's perfect. You just open the door and the chest is right here for you. So now that this farm is complete, we have officially finished all the farms for this episode. However, I don't want to leave it there. Obviously, there's still a lot of empty space and the builds aren't fully cohesive and fit in nicely with our original builds. So I'm just going to take some time and go around and add all the finishing details to this area. So what I'm thinking is just going around and finishing up all these pathways, finishing up the little crop fields that I added, and maybe adding a few more crop fields over here. So I'll see you again once this whole area is tidied up. Now that the place is done, I'm having so much fun just running through here and just looking at all the detail. It just looks so awesome and I'm super happy with how this place turned out. And I just love all these little pathways everywhere. It is so nice. Welcome back to my hardcore forever world, where in this episode, we are going to build an incredible castle to house our first iron farm. This castle ends up being full of life and super whimsical and definitely one of my favorite builds. So enough talking, let's get started. But first, before we begin on today's project, there are a few things I'll need to get done off of my checklist. The first of that being fully enchant all of the rest of my gear. We did build this enchanting building a few episodes ago, however haven't really used it to its full potential. So I'm going to spend some time enchanting the rest of my gear, especially looking for a Silk Touch diamond pickaxe, which will help a lot with today's episode. So I'm going to take some time and search through the nether for some quartz and maybe use our zombie spawner as well, just to get up a bit more XP so we can start enchanting the rest of our gear. I really hate coming to the nether, especially in hardcore, but the nether quartz around here is just so good for XP that we just have to do it. But yeah, even though I've been here before, I'm still super uneasy coming here. Anyways, I'm going to go around and mine some of the quartz and I'll see you once that's done. Alright, so I returned from our trip to the nether with 41 levels, which I think, if we're smart enough with how we enchant things, should be enough to get us everything we need. But worst case scenario, I can just take a quick trip to the zombie spawner, which should give us a few quick levels. Anyways, let's see what we can get on our first enchant. So first I want to check this diamond pickaxe. And just kind of like the Fortune 3 one, I want it to say Silk Touch. I don't want to take a risk on this one. So since that enchant was no good, I'll just go through all the other ones and see what we can get. And I'm sure you've all seen this before, so I probably won't bore you with it, but pretty much what I'm going to do is just go through, prioritize the Silk Touch enchant, but if there's nothing good, I will reroll the enchants with just a level 1 enchant, and then hopefully we can get something good on our armor or our pickaxe. Alright, we have finally finished enchanting all of our gear, albeit some of the enchants aren't the best. They will do for now, but to give a quick rundown of what we got, we have protection 3 on the helmet, protection 4 on the chest plate, just unbreaking 3 on the legs, which is kind of unfortunate, but it'll do for now. And then of course the feather falling 3 boots from last episode. The sword we have Bane of Arthropods 4, knockback 2 and unbreaking 3, and then all these other tools were just from the last episode, but the most important thing is this diamond pickaxe here, which does have Silk Touch. Unfortunately only efficiency 3, but I really just wanted the Silk Touch. And if you're wondering why I need that silk touch for this episode, it's because I need stone and I need a lot of it. So far, I've just been smelting cobblestone in my furnaces here, but honestly, it takes a really long time just to even smelt a few stacks of cobblestone. And so like I said, for today's project, we're gonna need a lot of stone bricks. And I don't really feel like smelting cobblestone anymore, so I'll be using this pickaxe to just mine a lot of regular stone. Anyways, like I said, for this project, we'll need about 9 stacks of stone bricks, but we'll also need about 9 stacks of cobblestone and 9 stacks of andesite. And as you can probably tell, we're missing quite a few blocks from our list there, so we have a lot of materials to gather up. So I think it's time we once again head to the mines and see how much stone, cobblestone, and andesite we can collect. I'm hoping this doesn't take me too long because I'm super excited for today's project and I'm really hoping we can get started on it soon, but we'll have to see. So for now, I'll see you after I've mined up all of the resources. Alright, so I finally got back from the mines, and this is all the blocks we were able to gather. And honestly, it really didn't take me that long. Even though my pickaxe only had efficiency 3 on it, it was still pretty quick and definitely better than, any iron tool or just a regular diamond pickaxe. So yeah, that definitely wasn't too bad. But before I forget, which to be honest, I did already a little bit, we have some farms to name. And so last episode, I asked you for your name suggestions for these farms, and I got a lot of responses. So thank you to everyone that left name suggestions in the comments. And so now it's time to start naming some of these places. So first for the cactus farm, we have the cactus cockpit, suggested by this person. For the sugarcane farm, we're going to go with sugarcane lane, suggested by this person. For the mud farm, we have Miss Seuss, who suggested Shrek Shack. I love the farm name suggestion, but your account name is a little questionable. Next, we have the melon and pumpkin farm, suggested by this person, to name it Melon Springs. And last but not least, of course, we have the bamboo farm, where this person suggested to name it the Bamboo Burrow, which I just really love that name. I think this is definitely my favorite of the episode, so thank you everyone for your amazing suggestions. Now that we've named all the farms, we can move on to today's project, which, like I said earlier, will be an iron farm. And I think I'm going to go put it over in this area back here. And so my idea for this farm is to have a giant castle kind of surrounding the iron farm, which I think would look really cool, especially since it'll be kind of out of the way of our regular stuff and you'll kind of see it in the distance as you're walking through our little town. But first, similar to last episode, this area and this plot of land is kind of messy. There's a lot of little holes and caves and little rough areas. So I'm going to take some time and start terraforming this area. First things first, I want to mark out a 27 by 27 area, which is about the same size as the entire build. Just like that. And so now we know how much space this thing will take. Alright, nice. So now that I have the area marked out, I can sort of visualize how much space I want surrounding this 27 by 27 area, and I can get to terraforming. So enough chatting, I'll start terraforming and I'll see you once all that's done. Before I could actually start the terraforming, I wanted to make sure no mobs would be spawning underneath the iron farm. So I had to first go around and light up any caves or ravines that I knew would get covered with dirt. After that, I could start working on flattening the area surrounding the iron farm, which was pretty similar to what I did over at the farming district last episode. I did want to make sure this farm had a bit of verticality, so I cut off the side of the hill to make a harsh drop, which would act as a sort of mini cliff. Alright, so we're at the point where I've got a decent amount of terraforming done, but at this part here, I kind of want to disconnect from the castle and the rest of the town. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of try and make a cliff or like a tall stone wall here. And I think that'll also make the castle look really cool, kind of sitting atop a nice hill there. But the problem is I've never actually built one of these before and I don't have a design in mind, so I'm just going to try and go and see if I can create something that looks good. And I think I want it to be mostly stone, just because I don't want it to look too unvanilla-y. I want it to still look pretty natural. Actually, just before we get started, I'm going to knock down this dirt just a bit more, just to make it a little bit taller. So I think how I'm going to approach this is just build a flat stone wall all around this and then go over and texture that, just so I can start getting a bit of a visual of what this will look like. Just something like that should do for now. And so now I'm thinking I'm just going to go through this and texture and add a bit of shape, because obviously we don't want just a flat wall like this. So I think in each of these corners I'm just going to add a few blocks, kind of just to smoothen out the shape a bit. Alright, that should be pretty good for now. And then anywhere where there's kind of a large flat section, I think I'm just going to add a little jut out here. And it's a little hard to see since everything is stone right now, but that definitely helps with the flat shape of it all. Oh, and that definitely looks pretty good from back here. So I think now what I'm going to do is just go around and start texturing it with a bit of andesite and a little bit of cobble and maybe some mossy cobble. I don't want to go too crazy with the cobblestone since that kind of takes away from the natural vanilla look of it, but we'll see. If I end up liking it, I might use more of it. Alright, and I think that's a good start for now. And for the cobble and mossy cobble, I think what I'm going to do is just go around the top and the bottom, since I figured that's where this wall would kind of be the most destroyed or kind of mossy with the grass next to it, and I'll see how that looks. Alright, so that cobble and mossy cobble is looking pretty good for now. The next thing I want to do is just go on with a few stairs and slabs and kind of round out these shapes just to make them look a bit more natural. Alright, and I think we're all good there. I just went around and added a few of the stairs and slabs, just to make it look like the rock has been chipped away a little bit. I also added a few leaves just to kind of give it a bit more of an interesting look. But for now, I think we're going to call that good. Obviously, there's still a lot more work to do, but I do want to take a break and actually start building the actual iron farm. I figured since we'll be building in this area anyways, might as well get the iron farm started, just so it runs while we finish building the rest of the area. So this farm does require about 3 villagers, and luckily we have this village right here, so I'm hoping we can just grab a few of these guys and it won't cause too many problems. And I think to transport the villagers, I'm just going to use a minecart and just kind of push them along the track. I'm really hoping this works out smoothly because I hate messing with the villagers. They're always just such a pain. And I think if I just use these workstations, I can kind of bait the villager over by the minecart. Hopefully he'll get in. Oh, perfect. There we go. And we should just be able to push this guy all the way over to the farm. Alright, and we finally got this first guy in the boat, which was not an easy task at all. But now that we have the first one, all we have to do is repeat that process for 2 more villagers, and then we can get the farm started. Alright, so now that we've got all 3 villagers here, we can finally get started on the farm, which I should mention is a design by Voltrox, which I think actually used it from Baula, I believe it's how you say it. But anyways, I'll link the video in the description. So to get started, first I just had to find the middle of my section here, but you want to dig a 7x6x2 hole. And then on one of the longer sides, you want to come in and go 1 block in and dig a 3x3. And that needs to be 4 blocks deep. And then on the side that faces in, you want to dig out another section here, just like that, and then dig 5 more blocks like this. And then from there, you can just build a staircase up to the surface. Alright, so once that's done, you can just place in your beds, and making sure the top of them is facing towards the staircase. And then put in a few slabs, and a trapdoor just like this. And honestly, at that point, most of the work is kind of done. And you want to make sure to place in enough torches just to make sure nothing spawns down here. And the final step is to put 1 more boat down here just to catch the zombie. And if you're wondering how the villagers are going to get down there, all you have to do is wait for night, and then once you break their boats, they should go straight to the beds. Perfect, just like that. So now, to make sure the villagers are safe, you can cover up this hole, and now all we gotta do is find ourselves a zombie. Oh, perfect, there's one right here. Alright, so if everything was done right, this guy should go straight into the boat down there, but you never know what could happen, so hopefully he doesn't just eat all the villagers right away. Oh, perfect, okay, he went straight into the boat. Oh, nice. We already have some iron golems spawning, and the farm isn't even done yet. We do have a bit of spawn proving to do before the farm is actually functional. Alright, so now that the iron golems are spawning, that's pretty much the farm done. Minus, of course, the collection system, but first you have to make sure to make all the area around this a non-spawnable block. So an easy way to do that is just make the path blocks 7 blocks in each direction. Alright, so now that all the path blocks are there, we can go ahead and make the killing and collection system, which should be the last thing for this farm. First things first, I'm going to place in my hoppers here, and then put in the chest. And then to kill the iron golems, we're just going to make a simple lava killing spot. So put some blocks and some slabs on top. And then by putting in your signs, you can simply just trap a bucket of lava in there. And the very final step is just putting water in each of these corners. And now this iron farm should be fully functional. Of course, there are a few straggler iron golems around, so we'll have to deal with those first. Oh, nice. And the farm seems to be working perfectly. So we can call this farm complete. But of course, visually, it is far from complete. So let's get on that now. First things first, I had to tidy up the area a bit, since honestly it was looking really bad right now. So I got started by removing the minecart tracks that I laid out earlier. It was then onto some more terraforming, where I tore down a big chunk of this hill that sat right behind my starter house. It was kind of in an awkward spot, so I decided that removing it would be best. To make it fit in better, I had to also do some small tweaks to the nearby land, but those weren't too hard to get done. To finish the stone wall, on this side at least, I continued building the wall out into this nearby hill, and slowly merged the two together. This gave it a super smooth look that I honestly really liked. Once I had that section figured out, I could continue working on the big hill that previously sat behind my house. I waited until after that part of the wall was done to finish this, since I wasn't too sure on how the two pieces of land would connect together. Lastly, I just needed to finish up the wall on the left side, following the same steps as I did on the right side. This side, however, was a little more tedious to get done, since the various holes and ravines in the ground were a lot harder to work with. But in the end, I got it all done and it was looking fantastic. Alright, so I finished up tidying up the area and I've also finished the whole stone wall. And so now it's time we make a path up to the top of the stone wall. So what I think I'm going to do is just kind of come in this section here and make a little carve into the wall that goes up. And I'm sure you might be asking why I didn't do that from the start. Honestly, I didn't feel like doing it earlier. So now I'm going to have to tear a bit of this wall down and do it now. But I think the best way to do this is just to come in with some dirt and start a little plan of the path. And I think I want this path to be about 3 to 5 blocks wide. Just something like that. Then now we can fill in these little extra spaces with the remaining dirt. I'm also just going to toss in a couple torches here just so no mobs spawn. And now obviously we have to remake this outside wall. So I'm just going to get started on a rough shape here. And I think something like this should do fine. Now I'm just going to go in and fill in this extra space here with the dirt. And lastly, for this stone wall here, I'm just going to go through and do the same sort of texturing you've seen me do this whole episode. Alright, so we've got our path up nice and decorated here, but the top of these walls are looking a little plain and a little flat with the grass. So I think what I'm going to do is on the top of all of these stone walls, I'm going to go in with a little fence design, pretty much the same as what we did over there with the starter base. So I might go around and throw in a few fence posts and a few leaves just to kind of give it a bit of color. Wow, and I must say that's looking pretty cool. Especially if you imagine the castle right there. I'm super excited to get this project done. Speaking of the castle, it's time we finally get to start building it. Well, almost get to start building. I used a lot of stone for the walls, so I don't have enough to actually finish the castle. So I just need to grab a couple more stacks and we should be good to go. So I headed over to my state-of-the-art, super fancy stone mine. Just kidding, it was literally just a big room I dug out in my mine, which desperately needs a revamp. Is that a hint to a future episode? Maybe, maybe not, who knows. Anyways, after gathering the stone, I could finally get to work on the castle, starting with the 4 corner towers. I started to build these up, but soon realized I left this weird gap here. I originally designed it like this to avoid iron golem spawning, but when I was building it in survival, I realized they were totally useless and made the towers look a little weird. So of course, in classic Seuss fashion, I messed up the design of a build and had to tear it down. Thankfully, I only built 2 of the towers, so it wasn't too bad. Once I fixed the mistake, I rebuilt the towers using a nice stone mix. However, the stone mix is slightly different than the one I used in past episodes. So if you notice what's different, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, after finishing the first tower, I built 3 others in each of the corners, changing the height of each slightly to give the castle a slightly more interesting look overall. It was then onto the walls, which I made 9 blocks high using the same stone mix. At this point, the castle needed a lot more details to make it look better, so I started with these supportive bits at the bottom of the corner towers. These helped a lot to give the castle more depth and look a little more sturdy overall. After that was done, I then moved on to the castle walls, adding this staggered stair and slab design that really helped to make this build actually feel like a castle, and not just a giant stone square. I also topped the corner towers with a similar staggered stair design. From there, I wanted to add a couple roofs to the towers, so on one tower I built a spruce and deep slate roof with a steeper roof style. And on this other tower, I went for a dark oak and spruce roof, with a flatter roof style as to not make it too similar to the other. For one of the finishing touches, I designed these window designs for the towers using mostly walls and stairs. Using these window borders really helped give the tower some much needed detail and depth. Since these windows weren't actually functional, I wanted to give the illusion of something being inside of these towers. So I put some deep slate behind these iron bars to make it look like there were rooms inside. Next, I actually forgot I designed the towers with walls in the corners, so I went back and changed them. These walls helped so much with giving the towers a more rounded shape and really removed that blocky feeling they had before. Finally, it was on to the entrance, for which I wanted to make a nice big gate you can walk through. So, using a similar style as the tower windows, I boarded the gate with walls and stairs, and after adding this heavy wooden and iron gate, the entrance was done. And with the entrance gate done, we can officially call this castle done, excluding of course the path leading up to it and other terrain details that we'll get to work on right away. Alright, so I think we've got the whole castle done here, and I am just loving how this looks, especially from the ground level here. It just looks super cool, super sturdy like a castle should. Of course, walking through the gateway you do have the interior here, and it does look a little plain to be honest, but there's really not much we can do since all this does need to be spawn proofed. And just quickly speaking of the iron farm, since building this thing it has gone about 18 stacks of iron, which is crazy. This will definitely help out so much when I need more hoppers or need to make more minecart rails. So yeah, if you do need a good beginner iron farm, this one is definitely a good design to use. Anyways, back to the castle. I am just loving how this turns out. There's so many different angles that it just looks so cool from. And one of my favorites is actually when you come out of the mine and you see the castle in the distance and it just looks so cool right there. I just think that looks awesome. So yeah, I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think it's looking great. But anyways, like I said before, we do have a lot more work to do in this castle. Although it's looking super good, it doesn't really fit nicely into the surrounding area. So I think I'm going to take some time and start making the pathway that connects the castle all the way to our starter area. I'm also going to go around and add a few other decorations just to kind of make the castle feel a little more lively and kind of blended in with the area. So let's get to work on that. Anyways, with the path complete, we can now focus on the final touches to this castle. And so I'm thinking in the areas next to the path, I might just go and add a little stone wall, kind of just to block the area off since I don't really know what I'm going to do with it yet. But that will allow me to fill in this area with a bit of greenery to kind of give it a pop of color. And speaking of color, I want to try something on the castle. I'm not sure if it'll turn out good, but I think I want to go in with a bit of moss and some mossy cobblestone to give it a little gradient here, just in some of the lower parts of the castle. And I'm thinking that might look really cool with a little green gradient going into some bushes down here. So I'll give that a try and see how it looks. Alright, so I finished work decorating the front of the castle and I think it looks amazing. I think it turned out super good and I'm so happy with it. Honestly, some of my best work yet, and especially this gradient here. I love how those turned out. I think they look super cool and really make the castle look a lot more whimsical. I was also worried that these firefly bushes wouldn't do anything, but at night they look incredible and it really brings the area together. Overall, I'm super happy with how this turned out, and I definitely think it's my best build in this world, and honestly, one of my best builds I've ever made in Minecraft. And I really hope you all agree. And lastly, I do want to name this castle, so as always, leave your name suggestions in the comments below, and I'll pick the best one for the next episode. Welcome back to my Hardcore Forever world, where in this episode, we are going to build this amazing Gothic style cathedral. This cathedral will be full of all the villager trades I'll ever need, as well as plenty of storage and a super cozy book nook. So enough talking, let's get started. So that's right, we're finally going to get some villager trading going on in this world, which is something we've desperately needed for the last few episodes. But in terms of location for this cathedral, I'm not entirely sure where I want it to be. I think I want it somewhere in this area here. I think this spot would be kind of nice and it would kind of connect nicely to our main path there. And we could do some really cool decoration along that path as well. But to get a better idea of the space we're working with, I think I'm going to go in and terraform this whole area here, just to make it a little flatter and smoother, which will also help it connect nicely to our farms here. So with our trusty shovel here, I think I'll get started on that. Alright, so after placing in some dirt and removing some of that pesky grass, we now have a good spot to work with here. And I think this should be big enough, we'll have to see. Normally I do plan out my builds in a creative world, but this time I think I want to just go ahead and see what I can do on the spot. So in terms of the sizing of the cathedral, I'm not really sure how big it will end up being, but I think this spot will definitely be a good starting point. So like I said, I'm not planning this one in creative first, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a rough plan. Obviously, I'm not going to build a whole cathedral without any idea of what I'm doing. So I think I want to grab some temporary blocks and create a sort of rough shape of the whole building. And so I think I'll go with some netherrack. It's always a good temporary block to use because you can mine it almost instantly. So it should be a good one for this project. Now I think I want this cathedral pretty close to the main area. Not super close where it's rubbing up on the library here, but definitely not as far away as our castle from last episode. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere right around here should be a good start. And so now I'm just going to go in and place some netherrack with some basic shapes to get a rough idea of how big this build is going to be. Well, I think I'm already realizing that's a little too close to this farm here. So we're going to move it back just a little bit that ways. This is why the netherrack is so good as a temporary block, because it just mines up so quick. Anyways, I'm going to get to work on planning this out and I'll see you once that's done. Alright, so I've got a sort of rough plan done. It is mostly finished, but I think for the part back here, I'm going to need to kind of build out this front section first to get an idea of what I want to do here. So I've left most of this just kind of open for now. But yeah, like I said, I think this will give me a good enough idea to start building with. So I'm going to go see what resources we have. And I'm sure as most of you know, I had to take a little bit of a break recently. So I actually don't really remember what we have for resources. It has been a while since I've been on this world. And looking at our chests, it unfortunately looks like we don't have much. So I think we'll have to head down to the mines and just gather a bunch of stone and andesite and really whatever gray blocks we can find. But thankfully we have our silk touch pickaxe that we got a few episodes ago, which obviously helps a lot when gathering stone, since I don't have to use this little furnace array back here. And yeah, look at that, I barely have enough XP to even just repair this thing one time. So hopefully by the end of the episode, we'll have some villagers to trade with and fix that problem. And so now we can head down to the mines and gather a bunch of blocks, mostly stone and andesite, which will be the main building blocks for the cathedral. While I go mine away for some stone, I just wanted to take some time to talk about recent events in my life. First, if you missed my last community post, I recently moved into a new apartment, which is why I haven't uploaded in a while. Well, you'll be happy to know that I'm fully moved in and have settled in nicely, which should mean a better upload schedule from here on out. I also wanted to just thank you all for the support you've shown, not just recently while I've been moving, but also since I uploaded my very first video. All of you have been incredible and have really motivated me to keep making videos. So, thank you all for your continued support. Anyways, with that said, let's get back to the video. Alright, so I'm back from the mines and we've got a bunch of resources to get started with. And wow, let me tell you, it is good to be back. Even a task as mindless as just mining a bunch of stone and andesite is so relaxing in Minecraft, so I'm super happy to be back playing this game. Anyways, now that we have some materials, I can go grab some stone and andesite and we'll get started on building the basic structure. So for this first part, I'm going to build up this plan I placed down with netherrack with just some stone and andesite and get some rough shapes going, and then I'll come in later and detail those when needed. So let's get started on that. The first thing I needed to do was build up the basic shape of the cathedral. So I went in and replaced all the netherrack with a mix of stone and andesite. I really liked this combination of blocks since it gave the build a much cleaner, more solid look, which is exactly what I was going for. I continued this mix about 17 blocks up before realizing the corner sections were way too wide for the scale I was working with. But hey, that's exactly why starting with basic shapes is so important. If I had gone all in with details first, fixing that mistake would have been a huge waste of time. Anyways, after adjusting the corners to fit the scale, I added this cascading archway over the front entrance and began shaping the main roof. These two details completely changed the feel of the build, and it finally started to look like the cathedral I'd been imagining. Taking a quick break from the main structure, I started working on window designs for the corners. And honestly, I struggled a lot here. I went through like 3 different designs and didn't like a single one, so I decided to focus on other parts of the build while I let the ideas simmer in the back of my mind. Next, I moved on to the roofs of the corner pieces. I added this really clean stone trim and staircase design, then filled in the rest of the roof with deep slate tiles. It turned out amazing, and I liked it so much that I reused that same style for the main roof since it just fits so well. At this point, the front wall was looking a little plain, so I added some stone trim and started experimenting with a medieval style wall pattern using stairs and slabs. After a bit of messing around, I ended up with this design that I thought fit the theme really well and really brought the whole front of the building to life. With that done, I circled back to the windows and finally came up with a design that I liked. So I copied over this design to whoever else needed it. I finished off the front with some more stone trim, and finally added this grand wooden door at the entrance. With that in, the front of the cathedral was looking incredible, but we still had a lot of work to do. So it was onto the main roof of the cathedral. I started by running a stone trim along the top edge, filled in the rest with deep slate tiles, and added matching trim details to tie it in with the corner roofs. At the roof's peak, I added a decorative ridge design, which I later learned is actually called roof cresting. Also, just a quick tip, if you ever build something this big, make sure to light up the space under the roof beforehand. I didn't do this and I accidentally created my own mob spawner, which was not fun to deal with. But once I took care of that problem, I focused on the side walls of the building. It did take a few tries to get the design right, but after freehanding a few patterns, I ended up with one that looked fantastic, especially once I repeated it across the whole structure. Now for one of the final structural pieces, the main tower. Most cathedrals have this large tower towards the back, so I wanted to add one of those as well. I started by planning out the size of the tower, then built it up from the ground, since a huge floating cube on the roof wasn't quite ideal. And for the roof of this tower, which I'm sure you could have guessed, I used the same roof trim and deep slate tile design. Once that roof went on, the whole build came together beautifully. I actually stopped for a bit just to admire it from a distance since, I mean, come on, it looked awesome. Anyways, after that, all that was left to do was some finishing touches, including setting the tower walls in by a block to add some depth, closing off this back wall, and finishing the rear trim. And with that, the cathedral exterior was officially complete. I'm honestly so proud of how it turned out, especially since this was the first major build in this world that I didn't plan out in creative mode beforehand. Alright, so we have the whole cathedral exterior done here, and I am just in love with this thing. And one of my favorite angles of this thing is over by the farms, which I think I showed a shot of this in the cinematic shots, but this just looks so cool right here. I just love it. Anyways, now that we have the exterior done, it is time to work on the interior of the cathedral. And my initial deal is to have a bunch of dark wood inside to kind of give it a dark, gloomy vibe in there. And once you know it, we don't have much wood in our storage room. So I'm going to quickly chop up some trees and we'll get on with the interior. So now that I've gathered up a bit of wood, I think we can get started. Normally for my interior builds, I do kind of the cinematic shots with the replay footage and kind of voice over what I did. However, I think this time I want to take you guys along with me just so you can get a bit of insight into how I process doing the interiors. But first things first, this cathedral needs a floor. For now, I'm going to use all dark oak planks, but I think I'll probably change this and make some sort of design later on. I just want some sort of foundation to work with for the time being. And yes, I know I can use top slabs for this, but I'm honestly not really struggling for wood that much at the moment. And since I might be breaking some of this later, I think it's fine to just use the full planks. Anyways, I think the first thing I want to design is the sort of trading booths for the villagers. So I'll just grab some sugarcane and some leather and we can get to work on that. And so I think for the cathedral, I'm going to have most of the villagers kind of along these outside walls, probably do 2 or 3 floors of them. And then the middle will be kind of more open, maybe for some chests or just some other decorations. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, we're going to start designing the trading booth. So I'm just going to put the lectern down here. And so I'm going to come in with some other dark oak blocks and just see if I can come up with something nice. I'll definitely know I want this blocked off with the trapdoor. And it really doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I mean, they're just sitting in a 1x1 space, so, you know, they don't need a whole mansion or anything like that. All right, so I just threw together some slabs and stairs with a bit of stripped dark oak logs, and I think we got something pretty nice here. It kind of looks weird on its own, but I think when we have a bunch stacked together, it'll look a little better. And who am I kidding? They are still villagers, so we really don't have to do that much for them. But now since we know the basic design of one of the training booths, I'm going to fill in the rest of this floor and then add a bunch more of these along these walls here, and then we'll get back for the rest of the interior. Okay, sweet. So we've pretty much finished all these trading booths on this wall. And I wanted to just stop there for a second because I was worried that this was going to be a little bit too much wood with the dark oak trading booths and the floor. But I think it actually looks pretty nice. And if you imagine maybe 1 or 2 more levels of dark oak, I think it'll look super nice in here once it's all done. But with these in place, I think we're just going to shift gears a little bit here. I would love to keep building the interior of this, but we do need to take a break and just get some villagers in here. And so my plan for the villagers for the time being is just to make a little room for them here with a bunch of beds. That way we can throw them some food and they can start breeding. Alright, so it has taken quite a bit of time, but we do have all of our villagers here. And I did get slightly ahead of myself and put a few villagers in here already, but I only put about 5 or so, so really not too big of a deal. But just look at our army of villagers here. It is just ridiculous. And if you're wondering, we have 58 villagers here. I think a little bit more since they've had a few kids, but about 58, which is 2 levels of villagers on each side of the cathedral, which is kind of just what I'm planning for. And I think we'll stick any extra villagers just in the back here for now. But yeah, pretty much all we have to do now is fill in all these spots of villagers and then build a second layer and then copy that over on this wall here, and we should have all the villagers in. And if you're wondering about the distribution of the villagers' jobs, I planned it out so we'll have about 10 farmer villagers, 10 fletching villagers, 8 cleric villagers, and then 1 of each of the remaining jobs. And then we'll also have 19 librarians just to trade each of the books that I want. Obviously that's not every enchanted book in the game, but it's just the ones that I think are most important to us. So I think we've spent enough time gawking at these villagers here and we can get on with putting them into their trading booths. So first things first, I will need a way up to the 2nd level of villagers. I was originally thinking a spiral staircase here, but these blocks here do protrude a little bit too far inwards. And so I'm thinking we'll just have these stone walls go all the way up in these little corners here. So unfortunately, that does mean we can't use this space here for the spiral staircase, but we can add a little staircase right here going up, which should do the trick just fine. So I think for the second layer, I'm going to go 1 or 2 blocks higher than this. I think adding 1 block here would be nice because we could use it for things like item frames and kind of denote which villagers are in each section. So for the farmers, we could have, a wheat or a pumpkin or whatever they trade, just to make it a little easier to find which villager I want to trade with. So for this separation block, I'm thinking we just use some strip logs. It's hard to go wrong with strip logs, especially when you're using item frames. They just look so good. Alright, then we just gotta strip all these logs now. Perfect, just like that. And I think we'll probably let this second layer hang out just 1 block, just to make sure we have enough space to walk around up here and trade with the villagers. Alright, and I think that's starting to look really cool. I do like the overhang. I think that's gonna add a lot of depth and character to this build. So for the rest of this border, I'm just gonna do something similar here with the offsetting stairs and slabs. And I think it being staggered with this bottom one is going to look really cool. Perfect. And I think that looks pretty good there. And so now that we figure out the height of the 2nd floor, we can go in and put our staircase. And so I think a basic wooden staircase should work fine with a few accents of strip logs, which looks really nice and kind of seals off this area. And I think for the rest of the staircase, we're just going to do a very steep decline of logs. I'm just going to come in here and cap these off with some slabs. And I think that looks pretty good there. All we have left to do for the second layer is obviously put in the villagers, but besides that, we have to get a railing on here. And I think just something simple like this, using some fence gates and some fences, should look really good going across the whole layer. Alright, and I think that is looking so good so far. And so the final step for the second layer is to add the trading booths above them. And so I'm pretty much just going to mirror the exact same design. It's not going to be anything super interesting since you've already seen that. So I'll be back once I'm done with that. Alright, so I finished up the design of the second layer, and let me tell you, I am so happy with this. It looks so cool. I added some lanterns as well because it was getting really dark, but I just love how this looks. It looks awesome. But anyways, now that this is done, we just have to get all the villagers into their places and of course copy it over on this side. But now that I know how it's going to look, I think it should be pretty smooth going and hopefully faster because this honestly took me a long time, much longer than I would have hoped, but it turned out good, so hopefully it was worth it. Anyways, I'll get this other side done and then I'll be right back. Alright, so we have gone both layers done and all of the villagers into their training posts. Now, I will admit we are missing just 1 village up here, I think. Right here, we are missing 1 villager. I guess in the whole process of everything, we ended up losing a few. But don't worry, I will get a villager into that spot between episodes. I'm just kind of over moving these villagers because moving 57 villagers into the trading post was a really horrible task. I mean, I've worked with villagers before and we always know how horrible it is to work with them, but having so many was just the worst. Anyways, before we continue, I just want to quickly take out these guys because now we don't need them. They kind of just spawned because the game thought this was a village in here. But I gotta be really careful because these guys could probably kill me in 2 shots and I wouldn't really want to die to these. So I think what I'm gonna do is just pillar up over here, and I actually made some arrows. And so hopefully we can just shoot them from here. Perfect. That wasn't too bad. So now I think the next order of business is to put a roof in here. I do kind of want to make a separate roof from the deep slate one. I've been doing that a bit in my builds where the actual exterior roof is disconnected from the interior roof, so you kind of have 2 separate roofs. And I like doing this because it lets you create your own roof on the inside without the pressure of kind of conforming to whatever you built for the exterior. So I think for this roof, I'm going to stick to dark oak again. And I'm thinking of kind of having some taller, steeper roofs in here, kind of similar to the library if you remember. And I think that should look pretty good and tie this whole area together. So I'll just need to grab a bit more dark oak and then we can get started on the ceiling. Alright, so now that I've gathered up a bunch of wood, we can get started on the ceiling. And like I said, I want this to be kind of a steep sloping ceiling, so I'm going to just start with some upside down stairs. And I'll do 1 plank on top of those. And then we'll do another row of upside down stairs, with another row of planks on top of those. And I'll do 1 more row of upside down stairs, but then put 2 planks on top of those. And for the top layer, I'll just do 1 row of planks. Now we can go down to see how that looks so far. Yeah, you know what? I think that's pretty good. Alright, so I think we've got the rough design in place. So all we have to do is just carry that all along this side and then duplicate it on this side as well. So let's get to work. Okay, sweet. We got the roof in and this looks pretty cool. I really like how it's all enclosed now, and I do feel, honestly, I feel a lot safer. Mobs are kind of dropping from our roof earlier, so this is definitely nice to have. Now it does look a little plain, I will admit, so I think I'll come back later with some details, like maybe some cobwebs, some vines, or you know, what other details I've been using. But for now, I do want to focus on the entryway here because this doesn't look the best. It kind of looks weird. I'm honestly not really sure what I'm going to do with this, because we do need these sides open here for the stairwells, so we're kind of limited on what we can do. But I think I'll just mess around for a bit and see if I can come up with something that'll look good. And I think what I'm going to try is just filling in this whole wall with trapdoors. And honestly, that doesn't look that bad. That actually helps quite a bit. And I think if I did 1 more row on each side, that'll definitely look better. Alright, I think we've got it. Honestly, there's really not much I can do here because this is the actual door to the outside. So I can't really do any sort of like supportive beams or anything like that. So I think this is going to have to do, and it does still allow us access up the stairs, which is perfect. Now that we have the doorway done, I think we're pretty good for now. Like I said, I'll come back later and do a bit more detail work, but for now I want to make sure all the villagers have their jobs and are locked in. And so this might be tough because I've been having a problem with these farmers earlier, so we'll see if we can get them to accept their farming jobs. So I'll probably just do some sort of montage of me going through all of my villagers, at least the ones that I can do right now, and getting their jobs done. Now, I thought this would be the easy part of this whole project, but I was greatly mistaken. I think when breeding the villagers or putting them into a booth, I must have missed a step because they were so reluctant to take a job. I tried several different things, like removing the trapdoors above their heads or putting beds near them, but it seemed like all they wanted to do was socialize with each other. I eventually decided to just release all the villagers into the main room and spam job locks, mostly lecterns to get the book trades faster. And this did work a lot better. Of course, it did mean I had to get them all back into their booths a second time, but it was really the only thing that worked for me. In terms of what enchanted books I got, I'll put a list of them on the screen. For most of the enchantments, I took either the highest or second highest level I found, except for protection. The rerolling was taking a very long time, so I did have to settle for the first level of protection, but other than that, I am pretty happy with all the enchantments I ended up with. Alright, and we are back from that mess. I'm not even gonna lie, that took almost 5 hours to get all of these villagers their jobs. It was just crazy. I had so many problems, but I think I figured out the reason. And that's actually the same reason that none of these farmers have their composters, or really any of these other villagers have their job blocks. I think it was because these other villagers were locking onto their job blocks and it was kind of conflicting with the villager in the booth. So yeah, that's why I don't have any job blocks in right now, because these guys will just take their jobs. But yes, we filled all of the booths with the villagers. Of course, except for the 8 remaining down here, which will be our cleric. And obviously the reason we don't have clerics yet is because we haven't actually been to a nether fortress and gone blaze rods. So that will be the next task on our list, is to go find a nether fortress and kill a bunch of blazes. And for those that have been watching very closely, I'm now at level 1. This is because I've spent a lot of my XP trading with the villagers and preparing for the nether journey. And so all the XP was pretty much just spent on this sword, which is sharpness 5 and looting 3. It's not going to be a permanent sword, I don't think. I just wanted looting 3 on it because obviously if we're going to be killing blazes, I'd rather get the blaze rods faster and get out of there as soon as possible. We also have this bow with a bunch of good enchantments on it, which will just help me snipe any mobs from long ranges while I'm attacking the nether fortress. But I think that's enough talking. I think it's time we go attack a nether fortress. First things first though, I do want to get a piece of golden armor, just so the piglins don't attack me. And I think I'm actually going to swap out my diamond pants for this, just because my diamond boots do have feather falling 3 on them, which will definitely come in handy. And also my diamond pants only have unbreaking 3, they don't have any protection on them, so I think it'll be fine if I swap those out. So now that we have all the proper gear, I think it is time we finally look for our nether fortress. Alright, we have made it back in one piece, and honestly that went pretty smooth. I thought I was going to have a much tougher time finding a fortress and also fighting those blazes. But now that we're back, we can finally continue with our villagers. So first things first, I just want to go ahead and make all of the 8 brewing stands. Which I actually thought you needed 3 blaze rods for a brewing stand. I always forget it's only 1. So we really didn't have to spend that much time in the nether. But anyways, let's go ahead and craft up 8 of these. Alright, so now that we have the 8 brewing stands, we can get all these villagers put into their booths, and then hopefully we'll give them their jobs. So I think I want to give a bit of a live demonstration on how I actually trap the villagers into their booths. It does have to be at night though, because it does involve beds, so pretty much what I've been doing is placing a bed and hoping that one of them will get attracted to it. And you know what, I'll just fill in the rest of these beds as well. So unfortunately this does take a bit of a trial and error, because how this mechanic works is that any nearby villagers will get assigned this bed. So that means that anyone already in boosts could get assigned to this bed, and then that will mean that all the other villagers can't use it. So luckily we got 2 right here, so all I really do is I go and place some trapdoors around them. And since villagers are 2 blocks tall, they can't walk past these trapdoors. And I simply just break the bed, and they should stand up in the trapdoors there, because when you break a bed with a mob in it, they will stand up where the pillow is. So pretty simple. And then I just keep repeating that process until I get most of the villagers in the booths. And if you're having trouble with the beds, what you can also do is just put them in a boat. And it's pretty much the same thing. You just want to back the boat up into the trapdoors. And once they're far enough in, you can just break the boat. And they'll just stand right in the trapdoors there, and they'll be stuck. And so from here, the final step is just to push them back and then place a trapdoor wherever you want, really. I'm putting them there just so they only have 1 block of space, but you could give them 2 blocks if you're feeling generous. And so yeah, that's been my entire process. That's how I get them trapped into their booths. And it honestly isn't too bad. It just takes a long time when there are just so many villagers to do this with. Alright, sweet. So now that we have all the villagers in their booths, we can finally give them their cleric jobs. Now I found that this is kind of a trial and error process as well. I'm not entirely sure why it doesn't work right away, but I think it might be because the other villagers are trying to get that job. Sort of the same thing as the beds. But then sometimes it works perfectly. Like here, we already have 3 of these clerics put in. So I'm honestly not really sure. If you guys have any ideas on how this mechanic works, please let me know, because I'm honestly clueless on how this works. I've been struggling so much, so I really could use some help. Alright, so we have all the clerics in and locked in with some trades. And now we can finally put in all the other job blocks since we no longer have any unemployed villagers in here. So there should be no messing around with who gets what job, should be all good to go. And one mechanic that I do know how works is the job block, so if you want their trades to reset, they will need access to their job block. And I was going to cover all the job blocks with dark oak trapdoors, but you know what, I think I like it like this actually. I think it's cool being able to see where the jobs are, and I definitely like this section here where you have all the random jobs. It just gives it some variety. So now that we finally have all the villagers in with their jobs, we can get started on the finishing touches of this build. For the interior, the first thing I wanted to tackle was this back wall, since it was looking very boring at the moment. I knew I wanted this to be a storage area, so I threw in 4 layers of double chests and encased these with some dark oak accents, as well as a ladder to get to the second level. At the top, I put in a segment of the same fence design I used throughout the cathedral. Behind this, I added a bunch of bookshelves, some empty, as well as a few potted flowers, some cobwebs, and some leaves for decoration. It was then onto the roof, where I simply added a mix of cobwebs and leaves. Given the limited space, this was really all I could do, but it still turned out amazing and immediately looked a lot livelier inside. Onto the exterior, I first marked out the pathways leading up to the cathedral. Once I knew where the paths would be, I started filling in a bit of the dead space with the outline of a flower bed. For this, I just used a mix of stone blocks that I've been using all around my base. For this flower bed, I wanted it to be mostly these 2 tall pink flowers, but also threw in a few others along with some bigger bushes to break it up a bit. After, I went back to texture the path, using my classic mix of packed mud, mud bricks, and coarse dirt. Now, I had to worry about this big open space, and when in doubt, slap in a wheat field. Only half joking, I did plan for a wheat field to go here, since I felt it would match the aesthetic of the Gothic cathedral well, and it did. For the last bit of exterior decoration, I outlined another spot for a flower bed. This one was a bit smaller though, since I did have to leave room for any future builds on this side of the cathedral. Anyways, this flower bed was made of mostly mossy plants with a few flowers and firefly bushes, since I wanted to make it distinctly different from the other flower bed. Lastly, the doorway was looking a little bland, so I added this pile of barrels to the left of the door, and to the right these simple little benches. And with those in place, this build was fully decorated and officially complete. I think it turned out amazing and ties in so well with the farming area of our city. Alright, so I think we're done with all the decorations of this build, which also means we're done the entire build for this episode. And I really love how this turned out. I love the interior here. It honestly is a little basic maybe, but it does add a lot of detail and life to the interior here. Especially all the bookshelves up there, it just really gives a cool vibe to that area. I also really love how the exterior turned out. And now that we have more of these paths in and more decoration around the front of the building, it just looks so cool. Especially when you're just walking out of this alleyway here, it just looks awesome. And then we've got this little path here that goes all the way to the bamboo farm, and it just looks so cool from every angle. I love it so much. This is my hardcore world. And although we have some amazing farms and builds, my mine still looks like this. So today, we're going to fix that by building the perfect mine that has 3 separate mine shafts for different levels underground, a huge storage room, and even a chest minecart unloading station. So, enough talking, let's get started. So yes, today's project will be to overhaul our mine over there because honestly, it is long overdue for that. I mean, just look at what I've been using so far, it's really not a convenient way to mine. So today I want to revamp our entire mine and even add a beacon, which does take us to our first task of the episode, which will be to go get all the wither skulls we'll need to fight a wither. This does mean we'll have to go back to the nether fortress we found last episode and get a bunch of wither skeleton heads. So to prepare for this, I'm going to farm up a bunch of my crops and do a bunch of tradings to get all the enchantments I'll need. I mainly just want to get protection 4 in all of my armor, and then I'll probably get a looting 3 and smite 5 sword, since the smite enchantment will work better against the skeletons. So I have to get to work as I have a lot of trading to do, but I'll see you after. Alright, so I think we finished up all of our trading, and if we look inside this chest, we can see that we have almost 7 stacks of emeralds, which I think should be plenty for all the enchantments we need. I do have a few books left over from last episode, which will definitely help when we enchant our gear. So now we can go ahead and craft up some books and we can get to trading. And so I've done the math, and to get protection 4 on the rest of our armor, except for the boots, I'm going to need 20 protection 1 books, which is kind of a lot. That's 200 emeralds. But thankfully we traded for a lot of emeralds, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm hoping the trade doesn't get maxed out though, which I think might happen. Oh, no way. I think we're 1 book short. We are 1 protection 1 book short of getting all protection 4 in our gear. But no worries, I will make sure we get that finished up before we head into the nether. For now though, we can use our remaining emeralds and trade for the last few books we need. Alright, so we now have a full inventory of enchanted books. I kind of forgot about the fact that combining protection 1 books is going to take a lot of experience. So I might have to jump back and forth from trading with the villagers and combining the books. But anyways, we can get started on this, and hopefully we'll have a nice new set of gear soon. Alright, so I've upgraded all of my gear, and it's a bit of a bittersweet moment because yes, it's good to have upgraded gear, but that does mean that we have to go back into the nether now. And yes, this time I am bringing shields because last time I went in here I forgot, and I can't believe I did that. That could have been horrible. But I guess there's nothing else to do besides go back into the nether and find that nether fortress. Oh, and you know what? I just realized I don't actually have any gold armor on me. But I think I'm just going to continue and chance it because I think I should be able to take out a few piglins here and there. And I think I say this every single time I come into the nether, but coming here in hardcore mode is just never fun. It never gets easier, honestly. Even with full protection diamond gear, I am just still so scared of this place. But we'll carry on here and get back to the nether fortress we found last episode. Wow, that was definitely a lot harder to find than I remember, but we are back. And now it is time to kill a bunch of those little guys over there, the wither skeletons. And hopefully it goes just as smooth as the blazes. Because last time we were here, all we did was kill some blazes and that went really well. So I'm hoping we can repeat that. Now you can call me a wimp all you want, but I will be using this method to kill the wither skeletons. Since they are taller than 2 blocks, you can just put a block above here and they aren't able to get you. And honestly, I'm way too scared to lose my world, so I will definitely be doing that for most of the skeletons. I'm so glad I made this smite sword because I think I can pretty much one-shot them. It's a 2-shot without jumping, which is pretty good. So yeah, this sword is definitely nice to have. Oh, let's go! We got our first skull already. That was pretty quick. Nice. I think we've only killed like 8 of these skeletons, so that is really awesome to get one so soon. Oh, let's go! Skull number 2. Now we just need 1 more. Oh, there we go! Oh, we finally got the skeleton skulls. Now that we have all 3 wither skeleton skulls, we can finally head out of here and get back home. That definitely might be easier said than done, considering we have about 25 blazes here and a bunch of skeletons blocking our path. Well, we're back, and this looks so weird on me. Yes, so we're back from the nether in one piece, and that went pretty smooth as well. I don't know what's been going on, but my recent trips to the nether have been going really well. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it there. But anyways, now that we're back, I think we can go ahead and spawn the wither, and I think this is a good open area right here, and it should give us a lot of space to work with. So I'll just build it up here, and just kidding. I hope I tricked some of you there. After all, it is Halloween time, so that'll be my trick for this year. But in all seriousness though, I am going to go to my mine to spawn the wither, and I'm going to use what I'm going to call the strip mine method. I don't know if that's the actual name for it, but pretty much all you have to do is make a very long strip mine and then spawn the wither at the end of it. And I'm going to do this at diamond level just in case we uncover some diamonds while we fight it. But just to be safe, I'm going to build this out maybe 100 blocks, maybe 200 just to be safe, and then we can spawn in the wither. Alright, so we got the wither pretty much built up here, and unfortunately I have nothing to say to stall this moment, so really we just have to go for it. Okay, it's been a long time since I fought the wither, so I'm a little nervous, and I know we should be able to use our bow for the first bit. So now that it's down to half health, we have to go in with our sword, and this is going to be the scary part. Oh, okay, we did it. And there is our nether star. Oh, that is nice. Look at it glistening there in the dark. That is beautiful. Oh, nice. And we got some diamonds from that too. Grab those. All right, well, I don't think I needed a tunnel this long because that was really only like 20 blocks of damage. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. So now that we have our wither star, we can head back to the surface, grab some obsidian from the nearby lava lake, and craft our beacon. Well, now that we have our beacon, we need a block to build the base of it with, and I think I'm going to use iron, obviously because of this amazing iron farm here. And I'm hoping we've had enough iron over the past few episodes to make a beacon with. Oh yeah, oh, there's a poor skeleton that died in here, but that should be plenty of iron. Alright, so I've got 4.5 stacks of iron blocks, which I know is definitely more than we need for a beacon, but I just want to make sure I don't have to come back and get more materials. And the last thing I want to do before setting up the beacon is head back to our villager cathedral and make sure we get a brand new efficiency 5 diamond pickaxe. Now thankfully, we already had some spare books from when we made the cathedral, so all we had to buy was 2 Unbreaking 2 books and 1 efficiency 4 book. And so now we could combine the 2 efficiency 4 books to make efficiency 5, combine the 2 Unbreaking 2 books to get Unbreaking 3, and add all of those enchantments onto our pickaxe. Alright, so we finally enchanted our god pickaxe, which means we can come up to our trophy room and add our 2 other diamond pickaxes here. And I know it's been a long time since we've been up here, but once you get past iron, you kind of don't really lose much gear. So we can go ahead and put our fortune pickaxe and our silk touch pickaxe in here, and we can list what they are. And there we go, we finally have some more items to our trophy room. So with that done, I think it's finally time we head over to our mines and get to work on the project. First things first, I do want to set up the beacon before we get started. So I think I'll just find out a bit of land here and put in our beacon. There it is, our first beacon light. And of course we're going to go with haste 2 so we can get that insta-mine on the stone. And let me tell you, the confidence that this beacon gives me is just crazy. I feel so much more protected even though I know it's still only on just haste and actually will do nothing to keep us alive. I just do feel a lot more confident. Anyways, I just want to quickly test the power of this beacon, so let's go down here to stone level and just start mining. Oh yeah, that is nice. Oh, this beacon is going to be so nice to have. And just like that, we almost got 2 stacks of stone. Wow, that's going to make building my project so much easier. So I think that's enough talking about the beacon. Let's get started on today's project. Well, it wouldn't be a Minecraft project if you didn't have to terraform. So of course, the first thing I did was prepare the nearby land and smoothed it out. During this, I also planned out a little cliff piece that I thought would frame this area nicely. It was then on to the actual mine, where I can now talk about my plans for this build. I wanted it to look like the residents of our city have stripped this mountain of dirt and started mining for their resources. So the first step in this transformation was to dig up all of the dirt, exposing the stone underneath. I wanted to try and keep a decent amount of the natural stone formations, but I also carved it out to look a little bit like they've already mined there and settled here for a bit. So overall, this mine will have 3 layers, the first 2 being completed levels with the cleaner look, and the top is meant to be where the miners are still working on digging into the mountain. I then got to work on carving in some stairwells into the rock, and added some other details, like these loose rock formations in the corners. For the actual mineshaft tunnels, I started to design some support beams, and ended up with this design which I really liked. The new shelf blocks they added to the game are honestly amazing, definitely a top tier block. I then made slightly smaller versions of these supports, and added 3 more around the mine, each having a unique purpose. To finish the bottom layer, I went around removing some pieces of stone to make the whole shape a bit more interesting, and also added some andesite and cobblestone for texture. I then just copied these details over to the other layers, which totally transformed the whole look of the mine. Before, it looked very bland and boring, but now, it looks like this. Definitely a huge upgrade. Now that the mine was pretty much complete, we needed to get to work on the ground in front of it. So for this, I kind of worked in multiple layers to give it a nice gradient. So first was a layer of stone and a bit of andesite. The next layer was mostly andesite with some stone and gravel. For the third layer, I just added a bit of cobblestone, and then the rest was mostly cobblestone with some andesite and gravel. After fading it off with some grass, this stony ground looked amazing and really brought the whole mining area together. With the ground done, we can now add some finishing details, like the storage pile, a few ore piles, some push carts to transport the resources, and lastly this tiny crane, which I am super proud of and I think looks great. But that brings us to the final step, and that is connecting the mine to our city. So first, I started building a simple stone bridge, textured with andesite and cobblestone. I did want to keep it small and simple to make sure it doesn't take away from the view of the mine. Next was the path, which I just continued the same path design from our city, using dirt path blocks, packed mud, and mud bricks. But with the path in, that was the exterior of the mine complete. Alright, we are back, and I'm hoping that building wasn't too overwhelming for you. But yes, like I said, it's time to get started on the interior of our mine here. And that does mean getting started on the mine shafts and the storage room. But I think the first mine shaft I want to get started on is actually up at the top here, which will be our zombie spawner mine shaft. And the reason I want to get started on this one first is because obviously with our beacon over there, we have the insta-mine effect, which is great and all, but of course that means our tools break a lot faster, and with mending we'll need a good source of XP to repair them. And so I think building this one first will definitely help with the rest of the project, since we'll have a faster way to get our XP and repair our tools. But for this one, I think I'm going to do it similar to the cathedral, where I kind of talk through my process on designing the interior. First things first, I actually need to grab some materials because I didn't bring a single building block up with me. And I think what I'm going to do is have some mineshaft support structures every 5 blocks or so. And for these, I don't want them to encroach too much on the mine rail, so I'm not going to put anything here, but at the top I think we can do some supportive bits. And I think I'm probably just going to stick with the classic archway, that being stairs into the shelves and then into the trapdoors. But at the top, I think I'm just going to put stripped logs instead of trapdoors there. And then for these side walls, I think I'm going to go in with stairs on the bottom, with some stairs on the top as well. And then I think to break it up a bit, I'm just going to do kind of a mix between the shelves and the trapdoors there, just to give it some variety. And so now that that's done, I think I'm going to go around and texture some of the stone a bit because it's looking a little bland at the moment. And then we'll just stick a lantern here on the fence. And I think this is a pretty good start. Now, I think I changed my mind on the whole design of this tunnel. I don't think I want the same repeating patterns over and over again, because I think that would just look a little too repetitive. So what I think I'm going to do is have more of these structured segments near the top. And then as we work our way down the tunnel, it'll get less and less structured. So it's kind of hard to show you what I mean until we build it, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of my idea. Anyways, I think I'm going to build out one more flat segment and then we can start heading down. I guess my beacon doesn't reach this far. Okay, we'll have to move that over real quick. There we go. That's much better. Alright, and I think that's looking pretty good there. Especially from outside, that's looking really cool so far. So I think you kind of get the gist of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start heading down towards the zombie spawner and building out the rest of our mineshaft. We are back from building the mineshaft tunnel, and I'm so excited to show you all the stuff we did. And there's no better way to show you than to take a tour, and obviously we have this first part here that we built earlier. And so a lot of it is pretty similar, but there's just a lot of detail to look at when you go down. So as we go down here, we can see all the loose rubble and all the loose rocks that we'll pass. And then at the bottom here, we have this corner here, and this looks so cool. I love these corners with the loose rocks there. It just looks so nice. And as we keep going down, we find this cave here, which I built this little wooden bridge on, and I tried to make it look a little rickety. So I hope it did a good job there. And you get a nice view of this lava fall here. This looks super awesome. Anyways, as you cross the bridge, you keep going down further using the same details as up there. We'll hit another corner here using the same details as before. And at the bottom here, of course, is our zombie spawner in there. And to block off the minecart, I kind of made it look like the tunnel collapsed here. Pretty simple design, but it honestly looks really good. And yet down here is our same old zombie spawner as before. And I didn't really point it out, but the support beams get a lot more worn down as we go down further into the tunnel, which I think looks super cool. So now that we have our first mineshaft done, I think we can move on to the next part of our mine project, which will be the storage room. Now, I could continue with the other 2 mineshafts to where they're going to end up. However, we have a bit of a storage issue. I've collected so many blocks during this project, and I'm going to need a place to put all these materials, so I think we should get started on our storage room. Alright, so I've just gone ahead and dug out a small space here. Now, since this is just a storage room for like mine type items, it doesn't need to be huge, so I think this should be plenty of space. So I've gone ahead and marked out 7 segments for the storage area. These 4 here will actually just be for the chests, and then the other 3 are for like either decorations or furnaces or maybe even a lava farm. I haven't really decided yet. So I think I'll just design one segment with you guys and then I'll copy that design over to the other 7. And I bet you couldn't have guessed I'm going to use the same spruce trapdoor and shelf design that I've been using everywhere else. Because I mean, how could you not use it? I'm just, it's so good and I'm so glad they added these shelves to the game. Well, that didn't take too long, but I think we have our design here. It's just a pretty simple arch. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that design everywhere else and I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got all of our segments done. So now it's on to the roof design. And for this, I'm definitely thinking I want to use a lot of stripped logs. And I think something like this is a good start. And then I just threw in a few stairs, slabs, and trapdoors, and we've got this design here, which I think is pretty good. It's nice and cozy, and definitely looks supportive. Alright, so we have all the roof in now, and this is looking super nice. And now all we have to do is add in all of our chests and the other items in here, so let's get to work. Alright, we are back from building our storage room, and here it is. It's looking amazing. So let's take a quick tour. First here we have this kind of automatic, kind of not really automatic furnace array. Yes, it kind of looks weird, but I also kind of like it. It kind of adds like a nice little, I don't know, dwarf kind of vibe. I'm not sure, like something like they just stuck it in the wall, but it works, you know? Anyways, I like it. Moving on, we have our storage chests, which all 4 sections hold about 300,000 items, which I think is definitely good for now, especially when we get shulker boxes. This will be a lot better. But on this side, we have all of the blocks you'd expect to see underground. And then on this side, we have all of the minerals that you'd be able to find. And lastly, at the end here, which I think is definitely my favorite part, is our lava farm here. And it's a really simple thing. You just have a bunch of dripstone here with lava above it, and it just drips down into the cauldron here. But this is the fuel source I want to use for our furnaces here, because it's farmable, renewable, and it's really easy to get. So that is our storage area complete. Now that that's done, all we have to do is finish up the other 2 mine shafts and add a few more decorations. Alright, we are back from building the other 2 mine shafts, so now I can show you what we did. So for the first one, this one will actually go down to diamond level. Most of this is still kind of the same up on the stone level, but just in case you were curious how I did the deep slate level, here it is. I pretty much just went in with a bunch of cobbled deep slate stairs and slabs and added a bunch of this texture. I don't really have a lot of other blocks that would work well here, so I really just went in with these. And honestly, I think it's pretty good. I think it adds enough variety to the shape that it definitely looks good. Anyways, back up at the top, we can go through the other mineshaft I built, which will just be the stone level, so I can mine a bunch of stone and cobble for my projects. So this one is really short. I mean, I didn't need it to go that far down into the mountain, and so I just used some stairs and some other slabs and stuff to give it some detail. So yeah, no minecart in this one, but I think I can walk up about 10 stairs. I don't think that should be a problem. So now that we've done all the work on the mine shafts, we can get started on a bit of redstone I want to do. And it will also involve some tripwire hooks, which I think is really cool. So on a server with my friend, I actually developed this way to kind of separate the minecarts from the chest minecarts. And it's funny, this idea actually came to me when I was sleeping. But pretty much how it works is if you look here, you can see that the chest minecart will pass under the tripwire no problem. But if you are a player sitting in the minecart, you will activate the tripwire. So pretty much how we would use this is if you send a chest minecart up the rail, it won't activate the tripwire and it can be sent to kind of an unloading station. But if you're coming up the rail yourself, you'll go onto the regular track. And so I'm thinking we can have all of the chest minecarts come out of this section here, just to make unloading all the materials I gather in the mines a lot easier. And just for a quick overview of how this actually works, if you power this rail here, instead of it going that way, the minecarts will come up and go here first. And so all I'm really doing is timing the tripwire up with the powering of this rail. So it's a little complicated to explain, but pretty much all I'm going to do is have a redstone torch under this block. But since this rail is facing how we want it to when we hit the tripwire, we need to invert this signal here, which we can just do by powering this repeater. And then now if we put a repeater into this block here, it should turn this torch off when we hit the tripwire, which then will turn this torch back on, thus powering the rail how we want. So if we do a quick test, we can see when we run into the tripwire, it'll power the rail there. So there's a chance this timing doesn't work properly, so I think we'll just give it a test. All right, that worked perfectly first try. I'm quite shocked. And then we'll also just test the minecart chest. Perfect, there we go. That's exactly what we want. Okay, now all we gotta do is close this back up. And that should be the full system working. I didn't have to mess with the repeaters at all, which is really awesome. The timing just happened to work perfectly. So now what I'm gonna do is carry this rail into our storage room and then also repeat this entire design onto the other mineshaft. Okay, so I realized we don't actually need this design on the other mineshaft since this is the only one where we'll really be getting a lot of blocks. But like you saw earlier, if we go on the minecart ourselves, we'll go right to the unloading station. But if we send minecart chests up, they'll take a turn there and go into our storage room. And just to show you what that looks like, here it is. It's a little funny how they stack up on each other here, but it gets the job done for sure. So yeah, I think that is our minecart unloading station complete, which just leaves us with a few more decorations to add. And the first of those decorations are these two barrels containing a bunch of different ores and rocks. Next to them, I then added these two stone piles, meant to look like a bunch of loose stone and rocks. And lastly, the terrain above the kind of cliff wall wasn't really looking too good, so I did some terraforming to tie it in better with the surrounding terrain. With the finishing touches done, I think we can finally call the entire mine complete. Alright, well we are fully completed with the mine, and I have to say it looks amazing. I love this build so much. I definitely want you all to let me know what your favorite part of this build is. I think mine is overhanging dirt at the top. It's such a simple detail, but it really looks cool. Anyways, before we end off the episode, I do need to head back to our starter area to do a few more things. Last episode, I know I asked you all for names on the cathedral, but I also asked for names on our iron farm 2 episodes ago, which I never actually named. I'm sorry, last episode I just got so busy and so focused on finishing the episode that I forgot to name the castle. But don't you worry, we are gonna name these 2 buildings right now. And I think I'll name the cathedral first. And for the cathedral, I really love the name, the Hall of the Holy Deal. It's a bit of a longer name, but I really love how it ties together the villager aspect and also the kind of religious cathedral aspect of the build. And now it's time to come over to the Iron Farm Castle and name this build. And for this one, I really love the Iron Inferno. And just like the cathedral's name, it gives you a bit of an overview of what to expect in the build. That being, of course, iron golems burning to death in the lava. I've survived over 400 days in my hardcore world, but my XP farm still looks like this. Yeah, it's not the best. So today, I'll be taking on the Ender Dragon, raiding end cities, and building this incredible Enderman farm that will supply me with all the XP I'll ever need. So enough talking, let's get started. So step 1 to build the perfect XP farm is I need to prepare. Obviously I'll have to fight the Ender Dragon, but before I do that, I need to prepare a bunch of things to make sure I don't die. And the first thing on the list will be my armor. It is super damaged and will probably break if I fight the Ender Dragon, so I need to repair it. And luckily I have this villager who can sell me some mending books. And so now I can come and put the mending books onto my arm. Oh, I don't have enough XP. Looks like we're taking a quick trip to the zombie XP farm. And it's definitely a nice ride down with our new mine shafts we made last episode. Alright, so after some time at the zombie spawner, I have all of my armor and tools pretty much repaired. And thankfully, it really didn't take that much XP since I don't want to use that thing ever again. It is so slow, and I just cannot wait to have the Enderman XP farm. Speaking of the Enderman XP farm, it's now on to step 2 of my preparation plan, which is to get Ender Pearls. Obviously, I'm going to need Ender Eyes to find the stronghold, but I currently don't have a single one to my name. So I'm gonna grab some boats and head to the nether, and hopefully we can find some endermen to kill. Now I know it has been a while since I've played on this world, but I think I remember a warped forest not too far, which is where all the Endermen spawn. Except for, of course, the one that spawns right here, which will be an easy kill. Now we just have to go around and find a few more Endermen, and hopefully we can get enough Ender Pearls. Okay, perfect. Here's a warped forest. And now if we look around here, there should be a bunch of Endermen that spawn in this biome. Oh, perfect. Here we go. So I made it back in one piece, and I've gone ahead and gathered up a bunch of other materials I'll need to fight the Ender Dragon. This just includes random things like blocks, water buckets, and even an Unbreaking 2 book for the future Elytra that we'll get. Anyways, I think it's time we craft some Ender Eyes and see where it takes us. Oh, okay. The Ender Eye went down. That means we should be right above the stronghold. Oh, there it is. It's inside the geode. That is weird to see. But that helps me out a lot. It's a lot easier to find that way. Alright, well, let's find this end portal. Wait, what? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay, I finally found a way in. That was really weird. Anyways, let's start looking around and find this end portal. Oh, there we go. Finally. Bit of a weird way to find the end portal, but hey, at least we got there in the end. Get it? In the end? But yeah, this stronghold generated so weird. There was so many weird like generation glitches. And honestly, I don't think I've seen one as bad as this. It was really bad. Anyways, that's enough chatting. Let's get these eyes in and open up the end portal. And wow, with the shaders and the sound, it is just so immersive. Alright, well, here goes nothing. Oh no, I hate spawning on this outside pillar. But at least we can just ender pearl up to the main island. Okay, let's get this fight started. First things first, I gotta take out all of these pillars here, which, thanks to my expert marksmanship, should be no problem at all. Yep, expert marksmanship right here. Okay, I think I've got most of the regular pillars down. Now I just need to climb up and get these ones in the cages. And this part is always the scary part. Oh! Oh my gosh. Wow, that was close. I'm not normally good at MLG water buckets, but that one had to come in clutch. Unfortunately, I still didn't break the end crystal. Oh, but I can just shoot it through the cage, okay. Maybe I'll just do that for the rest of them and shoot them through the cages because pillaring up is way too scary for me. There we go. Oh, there's one more up there. I think this should be the last one. Oh, this one's broken? When did it break? I swear I didn't hit it at all. Okay, let's ender pearl down and start shooting the dragon. Now I don't have a lot of durability left on this bow, so I really have to make every shot count. Oh no, why are they mad at me? I don't even know what I did. Oh! There we go. Okay, there goes the bow. So we're committed to just swords now. And I don't think I have any chance of killing this thing unless it perches again. So I just can't reach it with the sword. Okay, it's perching again. Here we go. Dang it. Oh, it's so close to being dead. Definitely just one more perch and we'll have killed the Ender Dragon. Oh, here we go. It's coming down. This is it. This should be the final one. Oh yeah, there we go. That is how it's done. Oh, look at all of that XP. Oh, that is so nice. Wow, look at that level 64. That is so nice to have all of those XP levels. And now, of course, you got to make sure we collect the dragon egg. So all we should have to do is put this lantern there. And there we go. We've got the dragon egg. That is probably the most value block in this game just because there's only one of them ever in the world. So if I lose this one, it is gone forever. But now that the Ender Dragon is dead, there should be a gateway opening up somewhere, which we can take to go find some end cities and hopefully get maybe some shulker shells and even an elytra. Of course, it spawned in probably the worst area ever. Oh my goodness. This is a very precarious spot. Both the spawn platform and this gateway have just been in horrible spawns. I don't know what this game has against me, but it clearly wants to see me fall into the void. Okay, and we should just have to ender pearl through here. Oh my gosh. What is with this game and me falling into the void? It wants it to happen so bad. Gosh, just horrible spawns everywhere. This is just so unlucky. Well, let's ender pearl onto the mainland here and hopefully find some end cities. Is that what I think it is? That is an end city. However, it's kind of a small one and there is no ship, so unfortunately there will be no elytra here. Now it's definitely a really small one. I think this is 100% the smallest one I've ever seen, but at least I can loot this thing for a few shulker shells. Well, I got 3 shulker shells, but that end city is just so small, there's literally not a single loot chest in there. So I think I'm just gonna move on and look for another one. Oh, there we go, another end city. However, this one also looks like it doesn't have a ship. How unlucky is that? No, I was wrong, there is a ship. It was just hidden by the towers. Perfect, that is where we need to go. First, of course, we have to get up there, and that's gonna require some shulker fighting. Oh boy. Oh, I don't have my shield either. Oh, this might get scary. Okay, some loot chests. Honestly, I really hope there's a bow in here. Ooh, smithing template, I'll take that. Honestly, my pickaxes are kind of okay for now, so I don't really need more of those. Oh, there's another one over there. Awesome, we might be able to get a second elytra. And there's the ship. Hopefully I can make this throw. It's a little bit of a scary one, but there's no fun without some danger. Oh, perfect throw. Okay, let's get down here and... oh, well, it's behind the shulker. But there it is, the elytra, the first elytra of the world. Oh, that is nice to have. And now we can just put down the anvil and combine the elytra with our Unbreaking 2 book, and now we have an elytra that won't break as we fly around the end. Oh, and of course we gotta grab the dragon egg, but it's over the void, so this is gonna be a little scary. Oh yeah, we're flying, there we go. Right to the other end ship. And of course there's a third one over there. That is actually insane. Now I do have to be a bit careful because without our chestplate on, we're going to take a lot more damage from these shulkers. There we go. We already have a second elytra. That is crazy. And I think I'll stick with just the one dragon head for now. Obviously at every end ship there is a dragon head, but I don't really have a purpose for them yet. So I think I'll just stick with the one. Anyways, I'm going to grab a few more shulker shells and then I think it'll be time to head home. Well, I think I've gathered enough shulker shells, and with all of these shulkers trying to kill me, I think this is a good time to leave. Now to get back home, I could fly all the way to the main end island, or I can hopefully find an end gateway that'll send me back. And I think they should spawn sort of near these end cities, but I haven't seen one yet, so hopefully it doesn't take too long to find one. Oh, there we go, and just as I say that, I find one right away. Alright, and I made it back from the end in one piece, and look at all of these shulker boxes we were able to make. This is going to help so much on step 2 of the plan, which is to gather all of the materials. Now, in terms of materials, I'll need a lot of glass and also a lot of acacia logs. I'll also need a few other random materials. So it was first on to collect all of the sand. So now that I've gathered all the materials I'll need for the XP farm, it's time to head back to the end and get started on the build. First things first, I built a cobblestone pillar all the way down to Y level 10. I will emphasize that normally you're supposed to go all the way down to Y level 1. Although I know this will slow down the rates a little bit, I'm building at Y level 10 for two main reasons. The first was simply that it was just a little less dangerous to build there. But secondly, the main reason was that I wanted space under the farm for building. Anyways, after building up the glass bridge, I added in the collection system and built up the drop chute for the Enderman. I then built out the spawning platform and added the most crucial piece to the farm, Endy the Endermite. Alright, well I've got Endy the Endermite set up nicely in there, and that means that the farm is now officially complete. So if we take a trip down to the bottom, we can see the farm in action. Okay, let's give it a test and... wow, that is a lot of XP coming my way. I think it's safe to say that this XP farm is pretty good. Definitely way better than my old zombie one. Well, now that the farm itself is done, I think I can say that although it works really well, it definitely doesn't look the best. I did try to make it look good and use glass instead of leaves, but there's still a lot of work left to do. But first, I quickly have to head back home and grab some more materials. These materials are mainly just tuff and a bit of andesite, both of which will be used to texture with the acacia logs. I made it back and I can now start building out a little glass circle. This will serve as a temporary platform to hold the farm, which I can finally start building. There we go. I've pretty much got the whole base of the tree built except for, of course, the texturing. But I actually need to take a quick break and go on a tiny little side quest. There are going to be a lot of hanging parts on this tree, and so if I want to build or texture any of that, I'm going to need a better scaffolding method than just using slabs. So I think what I'm going to do is actually go to the nether and grab myself a happy ghast. Now if I'm not mistaken, happy ghast should spawn by the giant bone structures, which I think spawn in soul sand valleys. But I honestly can't remember if I've ever found one in this world yet, so I'll have to do some searching. Oh, here we go. Okay, no happy ghast at this one. Okay, bone block number 2. Oh yeah, there we go. This is what I was looking for. The dried ghast, nice. While I'm here, I might as well go around and grab a few more just in case. There's also a few other things I'll need to prepare, like the harness to actually be able to ride the ghast and the snowballs to feed it with. Once that was all done, I could return to the end and start growing the ghast. I spent a long time waiting and waiting and more waiting until finally it absorbed enough water. Oh, look at the little guy. What a little cutie patootie. Now, as any good parent would do, I need to force feed him dozens of snowballs. Oh, there we go. He's all grown up. And I forgot to save some snowballs to get him to stay. Well, at least he's got a bit of freedom before a long life as my personal flying pet. Okay, I think he's had enough time. Let's do a quick flyby harness attachment. And I should just be able to land right on him. Well, he might be here against his will, but at least I gave him a snazzy outfit and glasses. Anyways, now that I've got the happy ghast sorted, we can get back to building. Eventually that is, because this thing is just a little slow. There we go. I think we've got the whole shape of the build done, and I must say it's looking pretty cool. I'm honestly really surprised I got the shape of the top piece to look good, since I was sure I was gonna mess that part up. But yeah, it is looking a little more mushroomy than I first intended, but I think I'm actually gonna steer in that direction since I think it fits the end theme just fine. Anyways, I'm gonna start preparing some materials to both do some texturing and getting some color up on the top piece. Alright, and just a finishing touch here, and let's see how it looks. Oh yeah, that is looking awesome so far. There's still a lot more work to do, but I'm already loving how it's turning out. But for one more detail, I did want to try some sort of hanging bits from the top. So I think if I just come in here and try a little basic shape. Okay, yeah, I think that would look good. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and add some more finishing details, like these hanging pieces, and some lighting to the top, and that should be the last few things for the exterior. Alright, let's take a look. I definitely think I've outdone myself here. It kind of looks a little weird on its own, so I'm gonna grab some end stone and get to work on a tiny island for it to sit on. And if you want to know how to easily make floating islands, it's honestly not that hard. I usually start with a pillar from the middle and then connect those to each side. Once that's done, it's really just filling in each section layer by layer, making sure to follow the original guideline. I did also forget to extend the island past the tree, so I added a couple layers. This just required a bit of fixing underneath, but wasn't too bad at all. With the island in place, this build is really starting to take shape and is looking so cool. I'm definitely really glad I continue with the mushroom design instead. But of course, with the end stone down there, I do need to figure out a way to spawn proof it. And I don't really have a lot of good ideas. I was thinking I could maybe try some end stone slabs, and I think from afar these will blend in nicely. So let's see how that looks. And oh, you know what? That's actually not too bad. Definitely from back here, it's almost impossible to tell those are slabs. So I think I'll actually just keep those how they are. As for the inside, we do have a bit of an Enderman spawning problem. But I think if I just place a bunch of slabs under here, they should stop spawning. And I think to finish off the interior, I'm just gonna go ahead and place these carpets everywhere. There are a few more things I'm gonna do, but I'll save them for the final reveal. Well, I think there's nothing left for me to do on this build, which is fine by me because it looks incredible. Like I said earlier, I sort of pivoted to it being a giant mushroom, but that allowed me to create this roof design for the top piece. I was trying to recreate how a portobello mushroom looks, so for any of my Italians, or just people that like eating at Olive Garden, you know what I mean. But yeah, anyways, it looks super cool, and the andesite there is actually the spawning platform, so it blends that in really nicely with the rest of the build. But of course we have to check out the work on the interior, and here we have it. Oh man, I just can't get over how cool it looks in here. The cherry blossom leaves were such a nice addition. I did also try to get those lush cave spore blossoms in here, but unfortunately you can't place them on leaves. Thankfully though, the leaves give off just enough ambient particles. And you know me, I love my ambient particles. And of course I have the enchanting setup here. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I do kind of like how it blocks off this one side, and all the space back here can be used for storage or whatever else I need. Anyways, let's get one more aerial view here. Yeah, this farm is awesome. So with the farm complete, let's head back to the overworld and talk about the final thing before finishing this episode. That of course is the name for the mine we built last time. I got a lot of really good responses, but the one I think I liked the most was the Glinting Vein Mine. So thank you for your suggestion. I'm gonna put the sign here for now, but it may move later on, just depending on how the world develops. I died in my hardcore forever world. I wish I could say it was while fighting a boss, or even because of a glitch in the game, but no, I died from one small mistake. One tiny lapse of concentration, and all of this, and even this, is gone forever. But don't worry, I will be back with another season of Minecraft Hardcore, and in the meantime, enjoy what was supposed to be the next episode of the Hardcore series. Firework rockets are one of the most crucial items for a survival world, and I am running out. So to fix that, I'm going to build the perfect creeper farm that produces all the gunpowder I'll ever need. Now, before we get started on the main build of the video, I do want to do a bit of work on the pathways near the base. At the moment, they aren't very detailed and they look kind of boring, so I want to fix them up a bit. So if I just come in here and grab some shears, I can gather some oak leaves and get to work. Now, I really love how the pathways around the farms turned out, so I want to try and use those as inspiration for the design that I'm making today. And now just a few finishing touches with some bone meal, and I think that should be the pathway done. Oh yeah, those details really brought this to life, and I can't wait to see how it looks in just a few episodes. But yeah, I think I'm going to start doing these little mini projects every episode, since I think it will just help to build up the area and give some life to the base. And as always, I am open to suggestions, so let me know what you think about this idea. Anyways, with that out of the way, we can start working towards the main build for this video. Now, this build is probably one of the biggest things I've ever built in Minecraft, which means I'm gonna need a whole lot of blocks. The first blocks I want to gather are the stone, andesite, tuff, and cobblestone, since these will be the easiest to get. For these blocks, I'll need roughly 2 shulker boxes of each, so I have a lot of material gathering to do. So I think I'll just set up a quick beacon here and get to work. Alright, so I think I've gotten all the stone and andesite that I'll need, and honestly, that didn't take nearly as long as I thought. I guess with Instamine, it doesn't really take that long to gather a few shulker boxes of material. Anyways, with those two checked off the list, let's go grab some tuff. And for the tuff, I actually wanted to head back to this cave I found many episodes ago. I never got to exploring it before, but with the elytra it should be a lot safer. So let's jump in and see what it has to offer. Oh wow, this cave is just incredible. I mean, look at these sun rays beaming in, that just looks so cool. And there is good news, I did spot some tuff deposits. And since this cave does have an opening up top, I can set up a beacon without needing to break any blocks above it. Okay, so I've gathered most of the stone type blocks that I'll need, but I'm gonna take a little break from mining since I'm sure that is getting quite boring. One of the blocks I'm gonna need for this build is sea lanterns, and I'm gonna need a lot of them. Of course, I could just mine them or kill guardians by hand, but since I'm gonna need several hundreds of them, I think making a quick farm will be my best bet. For this though, I do want to first search an ocean monument and take out the elder guardians, which means I'll need to prepare some potions. I'm thinking of getting invisibility, water breathing, and night vision potions, all of which aren't too hard to make. I already have most of the materials, but I will need to get a pufferfish. And I think this looks like as good of a spot as any. You know, I don't actually think I've done any fishing in this world yet, which is kinda crazy considering how long I've played on it for. Ooh, nice. I got it on the 3rd try. That was definitely a lot faster than I was expecting. Alright, so now that we have the pufferfish, we can brew up all the potions. And now I just need to gather a few more resources and we should be all set to head out and look for an ocean monument.